Is everything, can you hear us?
Hopefully we're live.
Good lighting, we can adjust the lighting.
Maybe see a little change in decor.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is pretty wild back here. So that's the first time I'm seeing it too. I didn't get to be part of the whole design process. But
I worked pretty quickly on that one, though.
so you didn't need some
I didn't,
impatient person in the way,
I didn't waste any time, so.
banging thumbs. So
Well, there was some swinging for sure. It was quick. Well, I think this was intended to be anywhere from 30 days to 180 days. I think it took like 48 hours.
now you just got to get on your barn, eh?
Well, and that's really why. So, I mean, for those at home that don't know this, we had a baby last Monday.
You did so.
Which is pretty big news. And I had a 2-week time blocked off of work, and I was thinking, okay, baby's coming home, we're gonna settle in. I got a barn project that's getting started, and so there was a fiasco with the barn. Crew just pulled the plug. They pulled a complete mutiny and said, no, we're out. They actually had all their stuff here, and they're just like, no, we're out, which was really, really handy. And so then I found myself with, a whole bunch of tools and time. And you know what? So I just come in here and I poured all my anger into this.
Into a masterpiece.
And so for anybody that has seen previously what we worked with, it was basically just a dirty old shop mezzanine that overlooked a greasy tractor and.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't this classy.
Yeah,
I'll
like
say that.
it was a space, and it was a space that was more intimate than down on the shop floor when we were just looking at the back of a tractor.
Mm-hmm.
But now this is, we tried to recreate the traditional gentleman's study. So hopefully we've accomplished that anyways. It's just a little bit nice. It's not really a room, like it's kind of set up like a room. It's more of a grotto. Like it's kind of like, I wouldn't call it a man cave. I know that word was thrown around, but
It's pretty sweet though.
the man cave is more like a space for, well, let's call it a boyish entertainment.
I guess so, yeah.
Video games
Yeah.
and, let's watch a football game and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And this is more of a space for good conversation and reflection. And,
Let your thoughts out, eh?
yeah.
And so what do you got? We got extra drawers. We got antler sheds. Is that one of your?
Lindy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Ram. So I don't know if the folks at home probably can't see the
You'll-
full span
You'll have
of everything we got here. We might have to do
do a tour.
a study tour one day, but
You can we'll do that on your
classic
channel.
oil painting. I think that's a chestnut tree.
It might still be crooked, but it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, no, it's good. And then obviously, as you can see, a fine selection of scotches behind us. But what inspired all of this? Like, this really wasn't, it really wasn't because the guys didn't show up to build the barn, was it?
No, it wasn't.
There's more to that story,
I'm gonna
right?
put that up there too, just for some shameless
Just for some shameless
advertisement.
yeah.
No, well, yeah. So cigars, right?
Yeah, that's where it all began.
Neither one of us smoke, but we thought, what's the coolest thing we could do at that point was sit down, have a cigar.
Yeah.
So we did that.
Yeah.
Then we thought, well, what would make this cooler? Some booze. And then once we got a selection of cigars, which is definitely blown away how many we've bought, we got ourselves a humidor. I don't know if anyone can see that. Maybe I should just pick that
I'm gonna
up.
have to just pick it up.
Just grab that.
Instead of just keeping cigars in a Ziploc bag like a hobo.
So this is pretty top shelf.
Put
I'm
this
gonna
right
move
here.
these out of the way.
Yeah, so I'll just tilt it so everybody can see.
And do you remember what this was called? A Del Rey 150, I
Del
believe.
Rey 150. Oh, the key just dropped out, but
So
yeah, so it holds 150 cigars. Glass top, so you can see, and you can see your hygrometer in there. We want to keep that at 75% humidity all the time. So, but this arrived like almost 2 weeks ago to the day, right?
it did, yeah. Well, I mean, well, everybody knew Stan had a baby on the way, and we're like, well, he doesn't have enough to do, and he can figure out how to, what's it called?
Season
these
the
things.
humidor, yeah.
That's about a 2-week process, so it arrived just in time for Stan to be totally overwhelmed with the barn build, the new baby, study, renovation, and then get this on the go. But it looks You said you had to calibrate the, what is it, hydrometer in there?
Calibrate the hygrometer, yeah. So the hygrometer came out from the factory, and the analog ones are, I guess, renowned for being completely off. And so you put it in a Ziploc bag with a plastic bottle cap, tablespoon of salt, tablespoon of water. Basically, stir that into a paste. You don't want it wet; you just want it to be paste, kind of like a slush, right?
Okay.
Seal it in the bag and leave it there for 24 hours, and then after 24 hours, open it up, turn the dial to 75%, and I put it back in the bag for another 4 hours just to make sure there was no creep while I pulled it out of the bag, and then it was good. Plop it in, and it ramped right up to 82%, which is where we were seasoning at, and then it stayed there up until yesterday, when I pulled the higher humidity Bovita packs out, slipped the 69%ers in, loaded with cigars. Here
Perfect.
we are.
That's cool. That is
Yeah.
cool. I don't
So
really care who you are. Having a humidor is pretty sweet.
Well, it's a lot better
Like,
than
it's
it's a lot
pretty
better
cool.
than a fine selection of Ziploc bags.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's when you know you've made it, but I don't know. It might be when.
Yeah, I mean,
The pinnacle of your
it's-
cigar smoking career
it's
is
up there. for
resting
sure.
in this finely seasoned
were-
box.
I feel like we've crawled out of amateur hour. For
Well,
sure.
absolutely,
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, anyways, I'll set this back so it's not obscuring everybody's view.
And we'll make sure also to everybody that's already here, we are every live stream we're doing the cups. So Sarah won last time. Sarah Feds,
Yep.
Feds. She won last time. Jeremy Chernuka was our first ever winner, and we are going to give another set away. They're not the same as the ones Stan and I have, but these are sublimated, so you dishwasher safe.
They're
and
right
everything.
uptown. Yeah, you
They
got-
are.
Yeah.
I'm going to just see if I can get on.
We got
here.
one comment on Tamboroa Station. Hello, gentlemen. Good evening. Thanks for joining us here this evening. And that's one thing that's pretty cool. Like, I mean, what is it, Friday night?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of things to do on a Friday night, generally in the world. It's pretty awesome that folks will actually set down whatever they're doing and
Absolutely, yeah.
spool up on the couch with a blanket and watch us spill our guts. But,
Exactly.
yeah.
So the other thing we decided, well, we've been doing this. We get ourselves a cigar and we pair it with a drink. So I'm gonna just try to get on here real quick.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'm gonna grab the cigars out and then we'll talk about the whiskey.
I should have had this ready. I thought we
We'll
were
talk about the cigars.
out of amateur hour.
I'll lock this back up for.
And everybody on here, I asked the other time too. Does everybody, when you're joining us, you guys actually grab yourselves a drink and a cigar or something, or are you just watching? I'm gonna move these just out of the way. I want to see this.
Justin Walker, how's the new room there? It is really, really uptown.
Oh yeah,
I like it.
it's
The
just
smell of Varathane in the evening is.
Oh, it's top shelf.
We're gonna have a good time. Let's just say
I
that.
gotta put this
Yeah.
back here. Oh, I want to give a shout out actually also to Cedar Gems in Grand Prairie. So
They
you can-
are the finest cigar shop.
Well,
in
you can
Grand
imagine
Prairie.
up here, like when we were in Edmonton too. I know there's got to be more. I didn't do a bunch of work, but interesting. Welcome. So up here, I think there's two, right? There's Sheffield and Sons in the mall,
There's
which
Sheffield
is
and Sons, which is
as old as time.
Yeah, and they're not a specialty store, right?
No.
They'll sell a little bit of everything, and newspapers included, right? But Cedar Gems is more of a specialty cigar shop, tobacconist. Very knowledgeable staff for the most part.
Yeah, they've been pretty helpful for us.
Damon's on, Alberta Boy 74 is on. Good evening, good evening. What are you figuring out here?
I'm just trying to get like you so I can see the comments, but
So I just went in through the YouTube app.
right.
And that was much more effective.
But how did you just search?
So then I
for
went
it?
to my community page where I'd shared the live stream link
All right.
and worked backwards through that way. Oh, we're toasty warm here.
Just going to grab up here real quick and make sure I don't know how. Okay, there we go. So we got Chad's in, James Hoffer in there, your Denner office. No, this is not the Denner office. This is actually Stan's shop. And he just renovated this last week.
Yeah, this is,
Humidor is commitment, holds more than I've ever smoked. Well, actually, yeah, you're right. Stan and I both, it's also held more than we've ever smoked.
so, and that's the thing too. I mean,
You guys
we
are
have
taking things to the next level. We certainly are.
we have a vast array of cigars, which I think, what do we have in there right now? Like 25-ish?
Yeah.
And it holds 150. Now, we have to keep the humidor 75% full. Otherwise, the humidity, every time you open it, the humidity is just gonna do this.
Yeah, you never,
Up and
I
down,
don't
up
think
and
you ever
down.
told anybody what you were doing that day. You left everybody hanging.
And so I think I did, yeah.
Okay.
I put together 2 cedar bricks that could be placed inside the humidor to take up that space. And they were all part of the seasoning process, so that then basically they would absorb humidity while the rest of the humidor is being seasoned. And then, yeah, Bob's your uncle. It worked actually really, really good.
Al's News, I don't know if I've ever, it's been years since I've been in there. I think the
Al's
last thing I
News.
bought there was a board game.
Are they even still open? I'm not sure.
They were. Last thing I bought there was a board game.
Yeah.
If I miss some of your comments, I'll have to reach up and tap the screen. I can't get this to work right now, but we will get them.
We'll
So.
get there, yeah.
So the drink. So Stan, if you missed our other live streams and you're in here, Stan's always so classy with the explanation. So I picked this one up. I did a bit of research. This is a Dalmore 12-year, and it actually the story of this 12-point stag dates back to about 1263 when they there was the king Alexander III, I believe, of Scotland was being charged by a deer. And this clan leader saved him. So this is a royal emblem from Scotland, and he gave them the right to use it. So in about 1867, descendants of that clan bought the Dalmore distillery, and it became the symbol of the whiskey. That's in Scotland, in a place called Cromarty Firth, I guess, on the coast somewhere. Tremendous climate for making.
It's right by Alness, yeah. It's
Well, this is your
it's
stomping ground.
just north of Inverness, so it's largely overshadowed by Inverness, right? Because everybody knows Inverness, the Loch Ness monster. Alness is north of there, and yeah. So when the king Alexander III, which we'll get to that in a moment, was charged by this furious stag, Colin of Kintail, who was the clan chief of the is it the Mackenzie? Is it Mackenzie?
Yeah.
Mackenzie clan stepped in and he intervened, basically, right? and changed history forever. Because I mean, you said who was the king? Alexander
Alexander
the
III.
Third. For the history buffs out there, who's Alexander the Third?
Well, I don't know. That's
Okay,
as
well,
much as the research that I
The
did.
king in question, crowned king of Scots in 1249 at the age of 7 years old. Pretty young boy. Pretty wet behind the ears when this event actually took place. In 1263, he would have been, I don't know, what would he have been there? 19 years old, something like that, right? So then Alexander had 3 children with his first wife, Margaret of England, and they all died at a young age. I think Alexander the Fourth, we wouldn't have Alexander the Fourth because he never got to be king, but he was the Prince of Scotland. He would have been the heir to the throne. Died at 20 years old, and Alexander himself also died really, really young. After his first wife died, he remarried, and he went to celebrate his wife's birthday, and decided to go on a horseback ride overnight to where his wife was in Fife, and was thrown from his horse and broke his neck and was killed. So now, how is this relevant in terms of the whiskey? Well, it's maybe not in terms of the whiskey relevant, but in part of the big picture. After Alexander III died, Scotland was plunged into ambition-fueled chaos, right? Because there was no heir to the throne. There was a baby. They had a 2-year-old baby that could have came across, but she died on the trip over from I think it was from Norway. And so then the Balliol clan, they came in, they intervened and tried to take over the throne. John Balliol was eventually crowned King of Scotland, and subsequently Robert the Bruce. So as you'll know from the names I'm throwing out here, we're talking about William Wallace, the Wars of Scottish Independence, right? This is all of this down to, somebody reaching in there and intervening with a charging stag. Had that not occurred and he had died in 1263, the Scottish throne would have passed to his 2-year-old daughter, and history would have been rewritten. So now I think I asked you the other day when I said, so what are we sipping on? And you said, oh, it's the Dalmore, it's 12 year. And I asked you, is it $1,100 a bottle?
Yeah, well, this one's not, but they exist.
So yeah, so when this bottle is empty, I don't know what you paid for this, but when this bottle is empty, you can sell this bottle on eBay for $35.
Well, it was the only one.
They're there.
It was the only one in the store.
I was shocked to find when I looked it up, because you just Google Dalmore and the eBay comes up and there's $35, $45, a lot better than the dime that you would get at the Bottle Depot, anyways, or 25 cents you get at the Bottle Depot, right?
Well, unfortunately for those purchasers of empty bottles, that's probably going to reside here for
Probably
a while.
just gonna stay here for a while, yeah. But so in 2013, the Dalmore Distillery, they actually released the Patterson Collection. So the master distiller at the Dalmore, his name is Richard Patterson, and so they released this Patterson Collection as kind of an homage to his skill and his talent. And there was 12 bottles made, and they sold them, or they didn't sell them. They listed them for sale in Harrods, which is it's a very uptown department store in London, for £987,500.
A bottle, or all of them.
Well, I'm not sure if that was for 12 or if that was for all, but regardless, never mind, $2 million. Whether that's a bottle or 12, that's a big number.
Yeah, maybe one day, I don't know.
Well, maybe if we
We'll
don't
see.
open it and we just, I don't know, when was this bottled? Does it even say?
I didn't look. I got more into the single malt and stuff side than actually the
lot
history of the
numbers
bottle.
there. We'd have to really kind of do some homework as to how they come up with that, as the year it was actually bottled, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I mean, some of the years are worth significantly more than others, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so that was the only one there. So, and now it's here.
Yeah. And then the cigars. So these may be, in fact, the largest cigars we've ever smoked.
Are these the
on
Churchills?
the show. These are Churchills, yeah. These are a JC Newman Quorum Churchill cigar. So JC Newman is the oldest family-owned cigar manufacturer in the United States. They were founded in 1895 by a gentleman named Julius Caesar Newman. Like, he's just, what a name, right? Julius Caesar Newman. Anyway, so these Quorum cigars are hand rolled at the Pensa factory in Nicaragua, which is the second largest cigar factory in Nicaragua. Now, you'll see the band on here is pretty plain Jane, right? I think that's because of the Canadian tobacco rules and regulations. So
Yeah.
oftentimes they get disbanded or rebanded, or they'll have to have this plain packaging banding on there. Now, I know in a previous episode I had said it was kind of a faux pas to remove the band because it cracked, or there's a potential for it to crack the wrapper. And I thought, well, is that really true, or is that just, some guy's opinion, and now they just read it off the internet and it becomes true for me? So I looked into it a little bit more, and it turns out that after you've actually smoked the first and second third of the cigar, it's not uncommon for some smokers to actually go ahead and remove the band, simply because it's warmed up enough that you can then
Oh, okay.
just
Yeah.
remove it.
So I wasn't smoking just straight glue, whatever, two episodes ago when I did that.
No, I mean, I think if you pulled it off initially, it may be an issue, but but after you're down the hatch a little ways, it's probably not such an issue.
This
I know
is the
there's-
most imported cigar in the world right now, or something? Most distributed? I looked that up yesterday.
the Churchill,
Yeah. No, the
or the
Newman.
JC Newmans. Oh, they very well could be.
They're
But,
number one in the world right now.
but I bought these ones simply to
They smoke it.
to celebrate obviously the birth of our daughter, and I thought this was a really cool. This is a 48 gauge, so it's a pretty 7-inch 48 gauge. It's a pretty large cigar. So, cheers.
Absolutely, yes. And congratulations on the new baby.
Try and make a clean cut here. That'll be the
Cut
thing,
that
right?
up and
Spend all this money on the nice cigar and then see if I don't just butcher it. Oh, nice clean cut. You got it? You don't need the knife?
Oh, I got that. Now I gotta do a good job here. I'll shield it from the...
So as Robin previously mentioned, if anybody's joining us that also partakes in a cigar and a glass of whiskey, now would be the time.
Do you think you're allowed to put ice in this, or would that be sacrilegious? Or what?
You know what? I think based on what we just talked about for the last 15, 20 minutes, I brought ice, but I may just leave it melt behind me. You know?
I'm
Because
gonna try it without myself, but you wonder too. See, they put this stag on crooked. I wonder if that means something. Did you notice that?
it may just be sloppy work.
They just gave up. So the interesting thing about these two, they're all called single malt, and single malt, kind of irrelevant. It doesn't really mean anything anymore. It used to mean that it was in one barrel or cask. They call them one place, one. But these actually are aged 9 years in a certain cask, and then the last 3 in this. I can't get the name of it. It's Oloroso sherry, but it's actually specific to the
Like
Dalmore.
Madeira?
It's not. It's Methuselam or something. Methuselam, but it's specific to this Dalmore. So I from what I understand, that maybe used to be wouldn't have been made it as a single malt because it goes into 2 different barrels. So it spends
Interesting.
9 years of its life in one barrel, and then 3 years in this Methuselam sherry.
So
So
that is very interesting. See, every time you come here, we have a subject. There's always seemingly extra to be learned, hey?
well, I think there's the cigar and the drink talk. It's a good way to kill a few minutes and get everybody settled in. So
Get everybody warmed up, so to
absolutely.
speak. Better just check the chat here real quickly. Other device went to sleep.
And yeah, then make sure if you're in here, you don't know about these cups. These cups we are going to give away after every live stream. We give them away as a set. All you got to do to be entered in is just leave some comments, participate. We're getting set up a little bit different. We got our phones here now, so we should be able to keep up with the comments pretty quick.
That was always the biggest struggle since the beginning, right?
It was.
to manage the comments.
Well, to try to get back, because we used to touch the screen and flip the screen, but
Yeah.
what we do at the end of the live stream, once it's loaded or whatever, in the next few days, we go back, we see who all has commented. I think the most we had was maybe 20 people in the draw.
yeah,
So-
thereabouts, yeah.
I mean, your odds are pretty good, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, really good. How's the draw on your cigar?
yeah, they're good. I think the humidor was the right move.
I agree.
I don't think they're. See, I
It's
think
very,
that's
very smooth.
a pretty
it's
important
like,
thing. Is if you end up with them too dry or too wet or whatever, then you can never really smoke them properly.
What is it? What are you getting hints of there?
Hints of.
I would say hazelnut, perhaps. Maybe chestnut. A light coffee, like a mild coffee kind of
I
flavor.
was gonna say it even
Yeah.
smells like coffee.
Hmm.
I know they always think chocolate, but I never get that.
I rarely get chocolate out of a cigar, unless you've got one that's specifically flavored that way.
Yeah, the ones you eat, eh?
Yeah, quite literally, eh? Well, should we, well, you've already.
I was waiting
Here
for
I
you.
am, wasting
I didn't
time.
drink it yet. I was waiting.
I'm just over here blathering. How many fingers?
2,
I've got pretty
1.5.
I got pretty big fingers, so I better just go to the top of the ripples on the glass. My wife told
This
me
is exciting.
this evening, she said, don't drink too much. And then Robin
I
brought
fixed that.
maple glazed donuts, so I was like, I'll do whatever I want.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that smells good. That smell, oh. For the folks at home that aren't with us, I don't know if I've ever smelt whiskey that smelled like that. It smells like red wine.
That's the sherry. Cause yeah, they are like they get those casks from, I believe they've had Cabernet Sauvignon, and then
Cabernet
they've had
Sauvignon, yeah.
port, all sorts of things. But that is crazy. That is wild. So I don't think you've never had this before either. I
I've never had this before. I think I mean, it's got some spice to it for sure, a lot of warmth, but definitely that rich red wine, sherry, Madeira flavor is there.
Mm,
I do believe,
I'm a big fan of that.
it would be criminal to put ice anywhere near this. Interesting.
That is one thing I didn't look up, was if you were allowed to put ice in it, and I don't think we should.
Well, given the
So,
history,
that old
from
Patterson
12
might die.
1263,
Keel right over.
it's got some years behind it.
All
So,
right.
really good cigar, really good whiskey. It's probably time for some really good conversation.
It is now.
I didn't bring any notes with me. I had my book, but
Well, you know what?
for
This
obvious reasons, I haven't really had time to.
absolutely, but even this whole topic. So, right? I mean, we left it right in the title. Where are we after COVID? So, Stan and I were always looking for ideas. So, if you're new to the stream here or whatever, check out our channels. We do a bit on the community pages looking for ideas. What do you guys want to talk about too? But I come up with this one. So, a lot of people come through to get feed. All we ever talk about is COVID. Well, with the exception now of Ukraine. But and I got to thinking, like, well, so where are we at? Like, where are we at after COVID? So then once Stan got settled in, I said, well, when you get a minute, let's spend the evening. Where are we after COVID?
Let's
Like,
talk about the most polarizing subject
where
of the
where are
21st
we?
century.
Did anybody win? Is anybody better off? How was it handled globally as a country?
Yeah, well, I tell you.
I would say,
Lessons were learned.
well, I would say it wasn't handled good, and that is probably the most civil way to say that. So we have basically civil unrest across the planet. Like, there's
Yeah.
nobody happy. Nobody.
Never in the history of our nation have we seen, actions as aggressive as what we recently saw in Ottawa.
Absolutely not.
And I did speak with one gentleman, and I said, that there was a large group of people that were sidelined, and he said, well, a large group, or were they just a very loud group? Well, sure, the group that was there was, I'd heard they were quite loud, but nevertheless, the group that was there, it's not like they were the only ones that were thinking that, right? It's a very, very Canadian thing to, you have a small group of people that go there, but there's still a huge support network in behind them that is like-minded,
Yeah.
right? There was still a lot of people that were very disgruntled with the way that the government was handling things, myself included. In fact, largely, throughout the whole thing, fairly indifferent, right up until, the riot police came in.
Mm-hmm.
So, instead of just listening and talking and doing the civil thing about it, was let's just turn on our own citizens, which is, that was precedent setting for Canada for sure.
Yeah, it for sure was. One big thing, and it ties into everything that we, with disinformation and flat out lies that are now just perpetuated across social media and everything. Nobody knows anymore. So that convoy started out, I believe, right in Vancouver, right in the farthest west part of Canada, and it took off all the way across the country. I guess arguably for the right reasons, but and then it seemed somewhere along the lines it got hijacked into some fairly intense stuff.
It really got into the weeds with some other people that had different motives, perhaps, right?
Because then and that's one thing, I will say, like, you in 2022, you really shouldn't be, considering laying boots to the government and overthrowing them that way. That's a pretty barbaric, futile thing to do. And now and that's the thing with all the misinformation. Was that what the plan was? They had that memorandum of understanding that seemed to indicate that was basically, once they got there, it was an actual plan.
I don't think that was really, the intent originally.
Well,
When the truckers first said, okay, well, we're going to go to Ottawa and we're going to get our point across, I don't think the point was necessarily we're going to go there and we're going to stage a coup, necessarily.
Well, I kind of hope not. You'd think
But there was definitely some individuals that looked over their shoulder and were like, well, what did the U.S. do this time last year? And almost to the day,
Oh, yes,
right?
yes.
Almost to the day from the storming of the U.S. Capitol, and here we have bouncy castles on Parliament Hill, like,
Yeah,
and that was, whether you think of that as threatening or not threatening, that was really largely just staged to add a level of ridicule against the government, more so than be non-threatening.
well, I can tell you just personally, and I have spent like quite a few nights sleeping on location of a functioning drilling rig. There's no way I could have handled that honking. I'd have lost my mind.
No.
I would have lost my, sadistically, I get to kind of think it was funny.
Yeah.
Only for a minute, but after it, I knew I couldn't.
The
handle it.
noise.
I don't
the
know.
noise
I don't
would
know
just
how they did that.
be,
That would have been.
I do have to sympathize a certain degree with the populace of Ottawa, having to listen to that. I see why they became very, very frustrated in a hurry, and then why conflicts or why tensions rose very, very quickly. Because
Oh yes.
even just, we have a crying baby in the house for the last 10 days, and what that does to you. Never mind, an adult truck driver that has full control over whether or not they honk that horn. I could see why that would be irritating.
Holy moly. We watched quite a few of those lives because that was the other thing, right? They kept saying, "Oh, the media's lying to you. The media's lying to you. There isn't garbage." And I actually had this conversation with a few people, and there was a lot of guys grabbed a lot of traction on YouTube and stuff like that, just filming live down there.
Yeah.
But you know what?
And that's what's happening in Ukraine now too. There's civilian journalists over there filming and putting footage on TikTok, of all places. So social media has now become pseudo media in terms of its legitimacy, where people go to get what they believe is legitimate, trusted information sources, right?
So is it? I mean, I'm
the
kind of
thing.
on board. I'm kind of on board with thinking that it probably is. It's probably unbiased enough. I mean, when you're just walking around with your phone, people are throwing things and doing this and that. I mean, you're not really censoring it.
I know the Canadian government never gave $600 million to a guy with a TikTok account.
Well,
So,
at least we haven't heard of that yet.
so they did that with the CBC,
They
right?
did,
and
yeah.
that's why I think a lot of people don't trust what is, colloquially known as the mainstream media.
But on one hand, there's a lot of people saying all the bad apples in these riots or marches or whatever, they're plants, right? Oh, they're paid actors, they're plants. Well, why could the opposite be true? Maybe some of these people reporting are plants.
Who's the dipshit that showed up with the Nazi flag? Like,
I seen a thing about that which threw me off, and it was actually a guy must have been he had a British accent anyways, and he said, "I was there. That guy was waving the flag saying, 'Do you want your country to turn into this?'"
yeah.
So I mean,
maybe heart in the right place, but misguided.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't be waving those around.
Yeah,
they really shouldn't exist.
There's never a good time. I don't even know, like, how would you even acquire one of those?
Yeah, I can't say I've ever looked at.
There should be a thing at Canada Post if one of those comes in the mail or it hits customs, and they're just like, nope.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it's time to grow up around that sort of nonsense. But if that was the case, why didn't you hear about that anywhere aside from somebody's YouTube live stream interview with a guy who just happened to, and was he telling the truth? Like, it's getting to be so frustrating now.
Well, that's the problem is with the information, the misinformation. Over. There's so much information overload. And when you think about our governments, our politicians, our elected officials, we trust them to make the right decisions with the best possible information. But when there's so much misinformation available and you cannot tell what's wheat and what's chaff, how could they possibly make a good decision? And when there's so many people in government with personal political agendas.
Oh yes.
Right. We recently just saw that with the vote over the Emergencies Act. Whether it should be a non-confidence vote or not, and the current sitting party basically just they voted to save the party as opposed to vote for what's the right thing to do for our country. Right. That was very evident to see political collusion at the highest level in our country, which was very, very concerning, considering, all of us from our different ridings or our different areas have elected individuals to represent our interests, and yet largely they just try to represent the interests of a singular body as opposed to the country as a whole.
Absolutely. Chad says, sympathy is pretty low for those living around the Parliament buildings. If they live that close, they're living off the taxpayer dollar. Some taxpayers gave them some discomfort for a while. And, to a certain extent, I admit it, I did kind of find it funny. However, some of those people are just baristas at Starbucks or whatever, just trying to live their life, right? And you're just, Stan and I are certainly no strangers to discomfort. We both worked on a rig, Stan for quite a bit longer than I did. We both worked in the patch. There's noise, there's mud, there's tire chains, there's invert all over your face, but when you're just, I guess we chose to do that, right?
Legitimate medically documented hearing loss from working on rigs.
Right, and these, my point is that those were our choices. These people that are just like, accountants or whatever it doesn't matter, whatever they're doing, living down in that 5-block circle. That must have been, I don't think they signed up for that,
No, it wasn't in the brochure when they signed up with the housing association or whatever, right?
But back to your vote, and I don't understand this either. So everybody gets there. Trudeau runs and hides. Undeniably, that's what he did. Undeniably, ran and hide.
Yeah, totally went for the bunker.
So I was thinking, there's 200 and some elected members of Parliament, I believe.
Yeah.
Everyone represents a riding across this country.
Yeah.
I guess I'm ignorant to the way politics work. Could they not just have a 1-for-1 vote on if we should lift the mandates? Every MP who represents a riding gets one vote. If she's yay, we'll lift the mandates. If she's no, we'll not. Is that not how this was supposed to work?
So what it's supposed to work is when you declare the emergency, and this has never been done before. The folks at home already know this. It's unprecedented. It's never been done before.
Well, it was the war measure.
Hadn't been instituted since his father, Pierre Trudeau, created it as a replacement for the War Measures Act. But no, basically initiated it, did not provide the required consultation with the provinces, which largely was, the premiers said out, like many of the premiers said, like, we're not in favor of this because you already made the folks go home, right? So what are you trying to do? The borders are open, trucks are moving. Yeah, downtown Ottawa it's still gridlock, essentially, but that's not an emergency, that's an inconvenience. And it certainly appeared as though there was going to be an opportunity for overreach there, right? And so you have 7 days to bring it before the House. So what did he do within the 7 days? Suspended Parliament. So there could be no debate over this. There could be no vote over this. There was no ability to do so. When Parliament was reopened and it went to the question, that's when it became is this a non-confidence vote or is this not? And they basically come out right, and they did not answer the question. They just said it's time to vote. And then the Liberal Party members, whether they would have voted differently or not, basically had to if this goes sideways, we're having an election. We're done. We're going to be ousted. And so to save their bacon, they all voted in favor of it because it would have gone to a non-confidence vote, right? So Alberta Boy 74 says handled like a 5-year-old eating paste, just a mess. Yes, indeed it was. Yes, indeed it was. And the fact that how many millions of dollars went missing?
Through COVID? Or through the trucking pandemic?
Since 2015, isn't there not like some $375 million that just could not be accounted for? Maybe that's not the number. I know what you're saying. It was a very, very large number.
NFE says the 1-for-1 vote never will happen as long as parties exist. Parties whip makes rogue MPs' life hell if they don't toe the party line. So yeah, I agree with that, but I guess in a situation like that where and maybe they didn't have as much support as they said they did, but it seemed like they had quite a bit of support. You seemed like I guess my point is the country seemed to be divided fairly,
Yeah.
fairly, maybe not evenly, but there was quite a few on either sides. So, party be damned. You're, for our guy up here at Grand Prairie Mackenzie, he represents Grand Prairie Mackenzie. Doesn't really matter what party you are. You should, your vote
Yeah.
should be like, this is what the people of Grand Prairie Mackenzie want. They either want the mandates or they don't. This is what the people of,
So if your MP votes in favor of the party, so that his life is not made a hell, and that does not represent the interests of his constituents, what should his constituents do? Make his life hell,
well, I mean,
right?
absolutely,
How
but
do your voice be heard? That's the point of it.
I don't know if any of this stuff's possible anymore.
Well, I mean, how many people write to their MP?
Well,
They don't. They go on Facebook and they bitch about it.
well, I was gonna say, so we did, about 4 or 5 years ago, we lost, I don't know, probably conservatively $400,000 worth of stuff. We lost 3 or 4 vehicles. We lost radios and tools. We couldn't leave the farm without stuff getting stole.
Yeah.
So we, MLA, MP, whoever in the RCMP that we could get a hold of, we sent letters and we got a whole bunch of, oh wow, that's rough. You guys, that must be uncomfortable.
Shitty deal, bro.
And I thought, like, what's the point of this? Like,
Yeah.
I think that the system is undeniably broken, and I don't know why, if it's been too long. It bothers me when I seen the mace or whatever laying in Parliament. I'm thinking, like, really? Like, it's like, why are we still running this like we did 400 years ago, 500? Like, what? Can we not update politics?
All pomp and circumstance
You know?
instead of getting business done.
Like, this is all, it's all, just pretend like, let's update things. It's 2022.
Yeah. Damon said, I feel most MPs did not speak up until the truckers went to Ottawa. Yeah. And, every one of the elections has had the same results in terms of, has it been in favor of one party or another. And that's one thing that's really concerning, living on the western half of the country, is that, although we get a vote, we don't necessarily get a voice.
No.
Because the vote has already largely been decided.
I think somewhere around
Before
the eastern
we've
part of
even-
Manitoba.
Yeah,
I look,
before
there's a
we're
line there.
Before we're off work on a Thursday afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
in order to go vote, we already know who the Prime Minister is gonna be. And so
Yeah.
all the West ever gets to decide is whether it's a majority or a minority government.
Ron says party politics will never work. They certainly don't seem to be working now. I mean, you look at whatever you think of him, our great leader here in Alberta, that guy's a fish. He's flip-flopping all over the place, He, in fact, he wrote a letter to the federal government to get help in Coots,
Yeah.
and then immediately
condemned them.
and then said, well, we've gone too far, or the federal government has gone too far. I mean, you just
He's also
this
the guy
is
that said, no barbecues, and then what did you catch him doing on the roof of the Parliament building?
Oh, yeah,
the
him-
legislature in Alberta.
him and our
Having
local own here.
wine and cocktails and smoked salmon, like just unbelievable.
Totally tone deaf, hypocritical
Yeah.
system.
Yeah, and the tone deaf, that's a really good point. That's exactly what it is. It's just colorblind, right?
But I wonder now too. I don't know. The last time I looked at anything like this was a local county elections. We got like 12% voter turnout. I don't think federally or provincially we're much better.
We're not. No.
So are people gonna? Is this enough? Is this whole
So why is that?
post-pandemic enough for everyone to be like, whoa, we actually gotta do something. I've talked to a lot of people who say they don't even believe in the system. George Carlin, you watch him as a comedian.
Yeah.
Like he said, the whole thing, you don't vote, you can't complain. And his whole thing is like, no, I didn't vote. I didn't cause this problem. You voted. You can't complain.
abstain.
Right? I can complain because I didn't participate in this nonsense. And I find a certain amount of validity in that statement. However,
Well, I think if you're going to abstain, you have a certain responsibility. Okay, well, I don't like any of these 4 idiots that are running. Why? Well, okay, because they're not competent, or maybe they don't represent my values, or whatever the challenge is. So why then do individuals not gather together and seek their own individual representation, or run for politics themselves?
well, I think
They feel they're
I
misrepresented.
think you just end up with like 900 people on the ballot, right? I mean, everybody's I wonder, are we all that divided?
Is that such an issue? You know, I remember, you know, because we lived just outside of Beaver Lodge, right? I mean, how many years we went, acclamation after acclamation after acclamation. We couldn't
Yeah.
even get people to run for town councillor, right? The same was true with county. How many years the county, where 5 of 8 or 9 districts are acclamations. People
Well,
don't even run against them.
This
It's not
practically,
because
you
the
know,
guy's doing a good job.
when Hythe got dissolved, right? I mean, you would have thought there was an opportunity for, you know, for people to get involved, and yeah, nobody even ran against.
Nobody even
Yeah,
runs.
there's one guy.
So indifferent, right? So that's the thing. Pre-pandemic, we're looking at decades of apathy and indifference when it comes to leadership, and you know, a lack of willingness to step up and make a difference, make a change, be part of the solution, perhaps.
Ron says,
And I say this vehemently because I myself did run and was a town councillor for a number of years, and I do believe that there's a certain amount of civil duty that can be done there. Because if you have a passion for things within your community you want to see get done, and I mean, why not run? Why not run? But that's what we see. Okay, so we got decades of apathy, decades of just indifference. I don't want to turn out. I'm not going to go vote. It's not going to make a difference. They're all idiots anyways. Well, now we are or post-pandemic, after 2 years of just sitting on the couch in our ugly gray sweatpants, eating processed food, and binge watching Netflix. Do we think anybody's going to have a fire in their soul right now to go out and make a difference, make a change?
well, that's what I'm wondering, right? And so Ron says you will never vote yourself out of this, and I kind of agree. But so what's the option? Like, what do we do then?
Well, you have
You
a
know?
choice. You have a vote or a revolt.
And that's the thing. I mean, is in 2022 is, you know, revolt, civil war, you know, is that, you know, is that the only way, or you know, is there a more civil diplomatic route? Jeremy's in now. Hi, Jeremy. And then
Tien's
Chad.
in too. Good evening.
Chad says the elephant in the room with all the levels of government is spending themselves out of a crisis. Yeah, we're definitely going to touch on that. I don't have any idea why printing money, and I seen the other day they were going to, the U.S. was going to give like $10 million to gender studies in Pakistan or whatever. I mean, maybe seems like a small amount of money. Maybe it was $100 million.
Is that the biggest problem in the U.S. right now?
Well, I just thought, like, first of all, I had to wonder, like, is this true? Because it was on TikTok or
they
something.
had to print money to do that.
Well, I'm wondering, like, what?
So
Yeah, we got a lot going on in the West. The West was supposed to, at least we've been told, where, you know, we're the envy of the East, and they were this advanced, you know, those young conservatives in the States are, it's the best experiment that ever happened, right? The United States, and every, you know, and I'm thinking, like, Canada included in this, I don't think we can hang our heads or hold our heads too high at the moment.
No.
We've really failed on a lot of fronts here.
No. The U.S. right now, they're printing, I think it's $12 billion a day to prop up the banks. So what they do is they print all this money at 11:59 p.m. They push it all into the banks, right? And at 12:01 a.m. they pull it all back out, so that the banks can make their payroll essentially, so that they're not showing negative equity, because all the mortgages would get called and folded up, and so you have to create this artificial cash flow, which is backed by fake currency. It's nothing. It's just smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors. And here we are in Canada. Well, we're just printing money and giving it to whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and so I had previously mentioned in a couple of my own videos throughout the week concerns with the stock market and where that's going to go. I talked to my brother-in-law the other day because he's an accountant, and so we had a pretty good conversation about it. But if the stock market crashes right now, as in previous years, the governments basically came with bailout packages and programs and stimulus in order to prop up, you know, the automotive industry, a variety of different industries, as well as the banks themselves.
Okay.
But now we're looking at, you know, our spending is far in it, or our debt is far in excess of our GDP. you know, we're printing money at a revolutionary rate, and inflation is going through the roof. So, if the stock market crashes today, there is no surplus, or there is no stimulus package coming without printing money, without printing artificial money, which is going to drive inflation through the roof, which will subsequently drive your interest rates through the roof. Now, what would that mean for the country? Well, if your interest rate went on your house, say, went from 2.5% to 10% overnight, you know, you're going to have to foreclose on all your mortgages. Talk about so that's not an option, right? The government of Canada, the Bank of Canada, is not going to allow that to happen. I mean, they're pretty incompetent, but I don't think they would allow that to happen.
No, that one would be a rough one.
Right, that would be a big one. So what's option B? Option B is you just look at this toilet bowl with just, you know, $20 bills going around and around in a circle, and you just keep chucking money and it doesn't quit swirling, and think, how am I going to solve this problem? Well, the only way to do it is to dissolve the dollar. Basically cancel the debt, dissolve the dollar, start a new currency, and everybody gets a clean slate.
Yeah. Well, so do you get to keep what
So then
keep what you had before?
That becomes the question, right? I mean, we could really, and in recent years, I mean, I'm not much of a tinfoil hat guy, but I've been taking double wrapping that thing because all the stuff that you think could never happen is actually, strangely enough, actually occurring, right? We talked a little bit last live stream about the broken clock theory, but it's actually happening, and so where are we going to go with this? So there's potential for this great reset, and what does that mean for landowners, and what does that mean for people that own assets, and does the government own it? Do I own it? Do I want to just hold debt, because then if I hold debt and then the debt get canceled, do I still own that asset?
Yeah.
Or we don't know what that's going to look like, right?
Well, I know that was a big one. There was a few guys who were like, "Oh, borrow what you can, max with your credit cards," because, you know, and everyone had a date. You know, it was a specific date when this was going to happen, and those dates have since come and gone. So I don't know.
Well, and
maybe it'll happen.
Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't happen. But if it does happen, I sure don't want to be the guy that's beholden to the government, having to, you know, put in a 14-hour day to work camp to get my loaf of bread at the end of the day, right? So
absolutely not. So Stan and I usually do a bunch of notes. All I did today was bullet point a few things, and they're sitting over here on the side, and we crushed through quite a bit of it right there.
Dalmore Station says now $2 gas and inflation put the clamps on everything. Well, I was seeing in Beaver Lodge today it was $1.70. So yeah, that's up there. And Glenn just joined us, chiming in. Sorry, it was late again. Glenn was probably at the Snowmobile Club. I don't know how you afford to put gas in those machines nowadays, but
I
probably
know.
Premium. That's probably $2.50 a liter.
Oh, I that's beyond me. I've never even looked. So Ron said something about join the APP. I'm not sure what that is. You know what the APP is?
The APP, I believe they are a separatist group in terms of like Alberta Independence Group.
Okay.
Right. So.
And then he said 2008 we bailed out the banks. This time they passed an act to allow a bail in.
Okay, well that's a lot of our problems at home. What else? I mean, we said we were going to talk about current events. So post pandemic, where are we at?
Yeah, we'll make our way overseas.
Let's you'll see the distinct lack of vodka on the shelf.
Yeah, I don't. So when I said that last time, I said you couldn't even get it. I don't know if that was actually accurate. There seemed to be vodka on the shelves. I didn't look.
You could, but yeah, the Russian stuff they actually did.
They put her in the back. Eh?
Yeah. You weren't allowed to sell it. So.
Well, and that's the crazy thing that happened pretty quick, and there seemed to be a lot of people who've seen that coming. I got to admit, I don't really understand. I guess what I don't understand is what was the reason to blow everything to hell, like, because, I mean, what's it worth now? I mean, just go in there and rebuild everything.
Well, Ukraine's infrastructure was never worth anything. Like it was a backwater, but it was a backwater that was settled on massive resource capability. Right, this is the breadbasket of Eastern Europe. Right, lots of good farmland. You know, they produce the most sunflower seeds. They produce a ton of potatoes, high wheat crops. They have large oil, gas reserves. They also have access to the rest of Europe, right?
I was
They
gonna
are
say they're kind of
they're the gateway
a
to
highway
Europe.
for
right?
a lot of natural resources too.
And so I think there was a few anti-Russian groups that sat along the border or anti-Russian sentiment groups that sat along the border that there'd been a little bit of saber rattling back and forth, and so largely that I wouldn't say provoked the Russians necessarily, but it gave them an excuse to provide an incursion, and then obviously the Ukrainian population put up seems like a pretty good resistance.
It does, yeah.
You know, and the Russians are largely they're going blitzkrieg, right? Let's get in there, let's get our boots in every major city, and let's just bludgeon them to shit, right? You know, it's interesting because we talked about this briefly last live stream, and I think there was one gentleman that thought perhaps we were making light of it.
Yeah, no, we
But
got.
no, it's a
that.
very serious matter, and if we ever do chuckle through a conversation as serious as this, I heard it said once that we only laugh to keep from weeping, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what the extent of our world has come to nowadays. Is if you can't,
Shrug it
you
off,
can't,
right?
can't
Laugh it off.
if you can't make light of something, well, I mean, it would be so depressing to even live in this day and age. The way things have progressed, we've talked about this before too, in terms of what have previous generations seen. They've maybe seen all the things that we're seeing now, but they saw them over a 50-year span.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing them now condensed into a 5-year span,
Yeah.
right? And so we've got the millennials coming out of school or coming out of college and university and trying to make a go in today's world, and they get a hard rap. They get a bad rap from some of the more senior generations in terms of their work ethic. But I mean, look at the insurmountable hill that they have to climb. Like what's in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus what that looked like 50 years ago.
Yeah, we talk about that quite a bit, with people that come, well, I mean, no different with your barn thing, right? I mean, we don't, it seems things are harder to get done and things are canceled for reasons that wouldn't have been heard of 50 years ago. However, there's an awful lot of expectation now. And I mean, if that's put on yourself by yourself, I mean, that's one thing, but there's an awful lot. You can be a lot more productive in a few hours in the morning than you could have been in a week 50 years ago.
100%.
So there's a lot that this generation has to figure out, right? Oh, Jeremy's in here. Yep. If you can't laugh, you may as well take yourself behind the barn. And you got that right, says Chad. Yeah, actually, I mean, it's probably
There's too much. There's
probably
too much of that.
probably one of the reasons these live streams became a thing. Right? Because
It's a lot better to sit at the table, have a cigar, have a conversation, and a fine glass of scotch than
that is a fine
than
glass of scotch.
ever
Glass of wine.
consider a walk behind the barn. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
And Alberta Boy 74 said, "Funny, people may worry about the lack of vodka. What do you think the fertilizer shortage is going to do?" That is a very interesting concept. What do you think? You're the fertilizer
I'm
king.
the fertilizer king. Yeah, well, this is the first year we've ever pre-bought fertilizer, and I can tell you she's was some of the biggest checks we ever wrote. Just to not even, and from what I understood, it wasn't even 100% guarantee to get it. It was just like, give us the money so we can go to the world and try to find it. There was
for a hard maybe.
basically, yeah. So then there was somebody was telling me the other day there was actually a Russian ship going to the west coast loaded with fertilizer, and yeah, they turned that sucker around. No way. So the sanctions on Russia, be they right or wrong, are really going to impact the Canadian public. It's not. What 2021? Everyone thought, oh, this is going to be the year, right? It's gonna, and then 2022 was going to be the year. You know what?
A year for what?
Well, just to get better than the last.
To get better.
And we've gotten exponentially worse, it seems. And I unfortunately, I think you're going to see a real tough go going through 2022 into 2023. For food prices are already. I did notice the price of meat at one Save on Foods in Grand Prairie hadn't gone up since the summer. So, or at least that one cut, anyways, didn't go up. But it's already very high. It was a $30-40 a pound cut.
So it's interesting because Glenn is on here. Glenn has previously asked the question, what does this mean to, the individual guy that's just trying to grow some meat chickens or a pig in the backyard. And I mean, we can probably agree that for me to buy a bag of feed off of you and feed out a pig till it's butcher weight and have it processed, I'm much further behind than I would be to just go to the grocery store and buy it.
Yeah.
Right? So financially, I'm further behind. So why do I do it? There's always a certain crowd that says, okay, well, I want to do it because I want to know where my food comes from. There's always a certain amount of intimacy and love of the land, but the reality is now we're not talking about just knowing where your food's coming from. We're just talking about knowing that you've got food available.
Yeah.
It's a food security issue. It's almost a national security issue. Because the government's not going to do anything for you in this term. Right? They'll maybe do something. There may be a program, but the reality is there's going to have to be a certain amount of look for yourself. And this was done in Europe. It was done in the U.S. post Second World War. We had lots of them in England. We had victory gardens,
yeah,
right, where people grew their own groceries, they grew their own food, simply because option B was government ration cards, and you get a tablespoon of butter a week, and one rasher of bacon and an egg, and that was good luck feeding a family of 4 off of that, right? So it may cost a little bit more if you have the ability and you have the prosperity to be able to weather. I don't know how many years this is going to be. This is a 5-year thing, 10-year thing, or whatever it is. Save your pennies, right? Don't try to be somewhat frugal, I guess, and try and gain a sustainable food source for yourself and for your family, because this fertilizer shortage. It's not. Yeah, we're talking about 7 skinny cows here, right? We're talking biblical things that are happening right now as we speak.
Well, that's going to be the unfortunate thing, right? Like, I mean, coming off the drought, now we had that massive thaw up here in the Peace Country.
All the water just see ya.
But that's but what stayed and froze? Anybody trying to establish hay last year? Underseeded hay, fescue crops. I expect those are going to be severely impacted,
severely stunted
by being so could even be destroyed. Now,
yeah, because they're not insulated anymore in a layer of snow, right? They're incarcerated in a layer of rock hard ice.
Frozen in the ice, right?
Yeah.
So Chad says, yeah, I agree, Robin. I think this year will not be as good compared to our input costs. Absolutely. Input costs have mostly more than doubled. Grain prices have not doubled. That's I've done some videos on that, just trying to get that out there. People always just like, oh, look, the farmer, he's rich, blah, blah, blah. It's really not the case. The numbers have gotten really big, but they're gotten really big both ways.
Yeah.
And then Ron says we should have weaned ourselves off of processed fertilizers a long time ago. Yeah, I don't know for sure. Like my dad always says, when fertilizer, my dad farmed. I mean, he's seen horses in the field in his lifetime, so he's come that whole way. And like he said, when fertilizers came about, that was the one thing you could point to and say that worked. That increased the yield.
Yes, when you had horses in the field and you put in chemical fertilizers, at that time there was probably not 8.8 billion people in the world to feed.
Exactly, and the world demands cheap food. That's one thing that people that they don't. Everyone with their and they're not to speak ill of them or whatever. They're very valiant ideas of let's get back to the way it was. Unfortunately, with our 8 billion population demanding cheap food. In fact, I tried to look it up one day, but I believe in the Western world there's a cheap food agreement.
There is. You will never. U.S., Mexico, and Canada. There's agreements in place.
I tried to look this up because my dad talks about it quite a bit. Like he said, you will never become rich farming.
Nope.
Now, I've done this in videos too. There's 5th, 6th, 7th generation dairy farms and farms or whatever that are obviously very, very wealthy. But most likely, you will not become very rich owning a farm like per se you could owning 3 or 4 vac trucks in an oil boom.
No, that's right. So you'll get individuals like myself who work off farm to make their income, but farm for the love of it and for maybe a bit of food security. Or they're not financial farmers in terms of this is a steady stream of income. They're more gentleman farmers, right? They do it for the love of it.
But and back to your other point about having a food source, a secure food source. There was a guy the other day, maybe a week ago, And everybody's always talking about, this exact same topic. And he said, well, what are you gonna do if the prices are so high and this, and then we got it figured out. We're gonna seed some peas if we can't get fertilizer. We got some fall work and stuff done. But I said, at the bottom of it, I'm gonna be all right. Because I still got a bin full of wheat and I own a wheat mill.
Yeah.
I have made my own bread. Now I hope that it doesn't ever come to this, but I'm gonna be all right. I know several close neighbors with milk cows.
Your priority is gonna be defending that resource.
Right, well, I guess so, but I mean, I know a guy that has lamb and sheep, right? I know a guy
I don't
that
know who
has
that guy is.
buffalo. I know a guy that has, right? We'll be all right.
Yeah.
I mean, and at the very least, we won't be at the front of the line. If in fact everything goes kapoof, we'll be somewhere near the back of the line when it comes to time to get your stamp.
That's right. Yeah, and that's one thing too. When I talk about food security and being able to secure your own food source, is you don't. We talked about this during, was it time management? It was our time management live stream. The farmers that want to have goats, they want to have chickens, they want to have bees, they want to have all of these things, when all they need is a community. Right? You need one guy to have bees, one guy to have sheep, one guy to have dairy cows, one guy to have grain.
And do a good job at those.
And be masters of that craft. And we'll be able to weather this storm. Now, in terms of whether or not we can return to conventional agriculture versus commercial agriculture, the only way to do that is to have individual accountability for where your food comes from. So, I'm going to piss some folks off in town by saying this, but if you have flowers in your garden and not food, you're part of the problem.
Oh, I agree.
Right? We were an anomaly when we lived in town. We were an anomaly because we were pulling 300 pounds of potatoes out of our backyard every year. And people were looking like, what are you doing? Like, you just go to IGA and just get it. Well, you don't understand. Like, this is big, much bigger picture.
And I got to be totally honest. When we had our house in town, we did not have a vegetable planted. However, we had a for sale sign in front of that house. And vegetable gardens in the front yard will not sell your home like
they will not.
Like annuals will, right? Or something that you don't need to touch.
You need some tiger lilies.
Even gravel. If you would pull that out and just gravel it, this so that people don't have to mow the grass. You've won. That thing will sell now.
But you cannot complain about the price of food when you have the capability to make it for yourself.
Absolutely. But all that time we lived in town, we had the garden at the farm. So we always had that. Yeah. We got, the world demands cheap food. That's what driving larger farms and low returns. If everyone mixed farmed with a couple sows and cows, we would never feed the world. Yeah, that is very true, but we could definitely feed our local communities and our local areas, and maybe I like to believe we could have a stronger voice about how we were going to be treated. We have made our own bread too with our wheat. It's heavy. It is heavy, and one thing my dad says,
dense.
He's like, this is what I remember, right? Because he'll be 70 in September. He said, like, this is what I remember wheat was. They had Fleischmann's yeast and everything too, right? And they obviously had flour. They weren't totally, but he said, a lot of it was that. And then Ron says again, we need a community. You are so right. We do, absolutely.
So there's a community that exists, and you initiated through social media.
I'm exhausted.
Peace Country Local Food Connection.
Stan ends up being my sounding board for a lot more than these lives, but I'm tired, and the reason I can't even complain about it because it's a self-inflicted exhaustion. But I'm tired.
So what was the question the other day? Because I think the crowd needs to hear it.
What keeps you from shopping local?
Yeah.
So I did a post. If you're if you're anywhere, check it out on Facebook. It's called Peace Country Local Food Connection. I set it up. I just knew so many meat producers that were buying feed from me that were just struggling to sell it into the market.
Yeah.
And I've done some videos on this too. And one thing I always miss is talking about quality, right? The quality of the meat is just, it's not even in the same league as what you're getting commercially.
It's not. So one of the people that answered the question had expressed some concern over the farmy taste. The farmy taste. So undoubtedly farm raised organic feed, organic food, especially meat, will have a different taste.
See you, Jeremy.
Than the stuff that's fed off corn and soy and and the milky. We looked at pork chops in Costco, and I mean they're as white as the snow is out in the yard, right? if I take some pork chops out of my freezer, I mean, there is, you know, rich, like they're pink and like the
Yeah.
beautifully look, like, I mean, you can tell there's actually some sustenance
Mm-hmm.
in this meat, right? And so that's, I think, you know, what the consumer sees, okay, I can get my pork for whatever cents a pound at the Costco. And then I see this, okay, well, I can never, off the price of a bag of feed, raise this pig to match that. But if I went calorie for or caloric value for caloric value from the product that I'm raising and feeding my own family versus the product that I could acquire from the IGA or the Costco or wherever, I think the two, you know, dollar-wise would probably match up pretty evenly.
Yeah, well, I did those couple posts, you know, and I mean, I realize people need more. They need more because they want to make a bit at it too, and I mean, we should all be able to make a little bit of money. But you know, and what I tell a lot of people, because lots of people ask me too, well, you know, how do we shop local, so on and so forth, and I say, well, when you're thinking about the money, the meat at the store isn't free either, right?
No.
So in fact, if you are competing with pork for $2.99 a pound at the store, and you want 4, you're actually only asking for another, you know, dollar and a cent, right? And that's really all you have to sell. And when we did, I think it was our second live stream, talking about commercially raised animals. To me, like, I am a strong believer that there is a certain place in hell for people that abuse animals. And I actually will go out and say it. I believe that commercially farmed, especially poultry, is a sin.
Commercially, yeah, I will 100% stand behind that. Commercial poultry barns are, well, although legal, they are unethical.
Pork a close second. Feedlot beef. I mean, I've seen a lot of pretty green feedlots. When I was down in Oklahoma and I drove to Texas, I seen they had quite a bit of space and they were commercially farmed.
Yeah.
But nothing like
cattle overall do have the best rap of any of the livestock.
Absolutely.
They do.
So.
But they need to do that simply because of manure management, not because of animal husbandry.
Absolutely.
That's why.
But to me, getting back to that point, that's the easiest buck you can ever sell.
It is, yeah.
Well, it should be. It doesn't seem to be. So we offered up about what?
It's one of the most diverse meats that's there, right?
Yeah, I think we all had about 5 questions. I was surprised. The one question, it only got one click, was fear of being ripped off. I actually thought more people would be, you know, with shopping local.
Yeah.
But generally, it seemed people didn't understand the process, and I guess
understand the process. Yeah. Understand the butchering process. Who pays the butcher? You know.
And as producers, I guess maybe we got to do a better job of advertising that.
You know what? I think I'm inclined to do this, and it would cost me a few cents to do this, but I'm really inclined to just go to the Costco and buy a tray of pork chops. Take a photograph, and then get a tray of my pork chops, and put them side by side, and say, this is the price for this, and this is the price for that.
Yeah.
You decide.
I wanted to do that in one of my videos, is just fry them side by side.
So my wife just went to the hospital. We spent 3 days in the hospital while we had our daughter, and my goodness, the hospital. I mean, the hospital food is always renowned for being subpar,
packaged in wherever and shipped up.
But she got a boiled egg, and I'm pretty passionate about eggs because we get a lot of them off the chickens here, right?
Yeah.
And passionate, and so that, I mean, my yolk is as yellow as this whiskey, or as orange as this whiskey, right? She got this thing, and I couldn't tell what was white and what was yolk because it was so pale and undernourished. Yeah. Like, okay, well, maybe this thing got 16 hours of daylight from the lamps, but it had no protein, it had no nutrients, it had no minerals in it.
That was, for me, that was the biggest change. Like, I could not eat eggs in camp in a steam table. I could, like, my gag reflex would not allow to eat it.
It's like chopped up silicone.
And then I started, you know, talking to some of these farmers when I was custom hauling grain and stuff, and they're like, oh no, farm eggs, they'll keep forever. You can keep for like 6 months in a dark cupboard. Yeah. Don't even need to be fridge. And I was like, no, there's no way.
Well, in the UK I grew up, we didn't keep eggs in the fridge.
Yeah.
We keep them in a cardboard box, or the carton, in the cupboard.
And so all this was foreign to me. I was just like, there's no way. They got to be in the fridge. They got to be. But I mean, an egg in a store can be like, Jesus, that can be old, like really old.
90 days. 90 days it can be.
And then just terrible. Like, say, like my gag reflex wouldn't allow to stomach this steam tray of scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And then when I started buying, like, because originally when we lived in town, we didn't have any animals, so I started buying farm fresh eggs, and I was just like, wow, what a difference. And I mean, we eat eggs every day now.
I had a lady, she bought a dozen eggs off me one time. I worked with her. She lives in the city. She's like, oh, you have farm fresh eggs? And, oh, yeah, could I get some? I sold her a dozen eggs. And she came back and she was concerned because the yolks were so yellow that she turned her pancakes orange. And she's like, there's something wrong with your chickens. And I'm like, yeah, they get sunshine and grass and bugs and all the minerals and nutrients that they need to survive. And they're healthy and they're full feathered and they don't look like they just got dragged backwards through a hedge. And if, at 18 months they're just exhausted and egged out completely because they've just been basically exploited.
Well, people complain they can't peel them either, eh?
Well, that's the other thing, yeah.
So what does Chad got here? Absolutely, home raised is better. We prefer our beef, lamb, and goat compared to town store stuff. We still finish it all with grain, but no hormones, etc. Ron will not eat pork from town. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody can agree with you on that. That is, and especially Costco pork is unbelievably bad.
It's unbelievably bad, yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Ty, stupid question, but how does government inspected play into trying to sell your own meat, or is it simply just the butcher's deal?
So here's what you can, if you want to run off.
No, give it.
So there's a couple different options there because we do this with lamb, right? I sell you the live animal, and you can take it to the butcher of your choice and choose to have it inspected or not, right? That meat is not for resale. If I take that animal to the butcher and I want to sell it directly from the butcher, then it has to go to an inspected facility, and it's going to cost a few pennies more. It's not terribly expensive.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge that we actually see, inspected facility or otherwise, is finding a good butcher,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we have 3 lambs ready to finish here right now that were holdover. They were late born lambs from last year, and so I recently just picked up the phone, called Derek Tretsiak from just down the road, and said, "Hey, I got 3 to go. You got room in the freezer?" And he said, "Sorry, man, I had to go get a job in town. Close the doors because I think things are slow." And so this is a real problem in terms of, okay, well, where do we send our meat? So actually, Mitch Rawlick that worked for Derek has bought Sean's Custom Meats in Grand Prairie. So if you're in the Grand Prairie Peace Region area and you're looking for a guy, Mitch just came out to the farm. He's butchered a number of our animals for us.
Yeah.
For several years, and worthwhile looking him up, giving him a call, seeing what the cost is, seeing what the process is, get an understanding of what it is. Very knowledgeable guy, and I'm sure he'd be happy to help you out. But yeah, I mean, if I can't get it to you because I can't get it to a butcher, that's a roadblock. We've talked about this previously before with the major packing plants and the roadblocks that they created in 2019 and 2020. Man, oh man. So what's option C now if I can't get it to a packing facility and I can't get it through a local butcher? I need to start watching a lot of YouTube videos and learning how to process the on-farm slaughter rules that we have in Alberta. I think it's six lambs I can slaughter on the farm. But the purchaser of that animal has to be there to witness it and see it all.
Yeah.
Right? I can do 150 meat birds, and I did six goats, 6 swine, and I think it's 2 large livestock like a cow.
Yeah.
But the purchaser has to be there, right? So if you want to raise meat birds as an example, one way we get around this, not really get around it per se, but how we initiate it on the farm here, is that the purchase of the bird, they come and help us on butchering day.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they're part of the process. They see how everything is done, and their payment for their assistance throughout the day is in meat. Right, so this year we're gonna get 100 birds. Actually, they're gonna go to my mother-in-law's place for the brooder, and then we'll get a certain amount of them to come back, and then we'll move in the chicken tractors, and then we'll have a mass butchering day sometime end of June. So that's the other thing that's going to be a challenge too, is getting meat birds.
Mm-hmm.
We found we found last year, I tried ordering in, December, and they said, no, just cool your jets. Come and call us in February. February 1st, 8 a.m., I'm on the phone to the hatchery. Line me up. I need 75 birds, right? It's not a lot, but that's enough to feed our immediate family and, you know, the in-laws and that kind of thing, right? And then we tried again later in the year, and they're like, no, we got nothing for you.
Oh, wow.
Right? So it's, if you're not on top of it, it's gonna be a real pickle, right?
Yeah, so
Anyways, that's a bit of a tangent.
no,
from
that was perfect. Ty actually said thanks for that explanation. Where there's a will, there's a way. And I told one person, and this is at risk of offending anybody, it will be a cold day in hell before I let the government legislate myself and my family into starvation. That will not happen.
Well, that's the whole thing with the raw milk thing, right?
0% chance. I will do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that these local butchers, because we all do, and I'll admit, we all try to follow the rules to a T. I'm not a, what's the word? I'm not against everything. I don't want to be a problem. If I can at all conform, I will. However, there is no chance in hell I will let any government legislate my family into not eating farm fresh food.
Well, the rules and the legislative rules within government exist because of commercial farms and the errors made there,
Absolutely.
not because of the small farmer who is out there every day. Not that the commercial farmers aren't out there every day, but
absolutely.
you know, in terms of animal husbandry, the small farmer has a far more intimate operation, far better understanding of their animal welfare than the large scale commercial farms.
Mm-hmm.
That is undoubtable, right?
Well, you even just look on the sheer numbers, or like lots of people are, you know, I mean, with, you know, they're one for maybe 100 or whatever. You know, if they got 200-300 head of cattle, there's usually a few family members. These commercial lots are like 8 people for 80,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's tractors, it's machines, it's
Automated process, all that stuff, right? Alberta Boy 74 said, I missed a few here, sorry. Starting to see more of a bartering system in my area, no cash trading hands. There's definitely value in that, knowing the value of your product and being able to trade it for a equally valued product. I'm not sure about fowl, but you're allowed 4 beef, 6 hogs, or lamb to sell off the farm. So that's, yeah, thanks for the clarification there. I thought it was 2 on the beef, but if it's 4, that's good. And I'm a butcher as well as a mobile butcher that does farm slaughter. So if you're in the comments section, Alberta Boy 74, maybe just leave your contact info down there, because I know there's people out there that are looking. They're actively seeking a guy that can come to the farm and take care of business.
yeah, absolutely. If I'm not sure where you're from, but if you're from anywhere near it, I want to tell people too, right? I mean, when you're sitting back, you know, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong.
You're in the
room,
wrong
right?
room. Yeah.
So these, like, you know, like I gotta be honest, I didn't know any of the numbers as far as livestock goes for slaughtering your farm. This is my rebel side. I don't give a shit. That's why I don't look. I don't care. Like I'm not going to pay $40 a pound for meat at Save on Foods.
No.
When I can get that whole entire cut and wrapped animal for an average of like $5.50 a pound.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. There's no way. You know, and I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not. You know, you burden on the medical system because you're drinking unpasteurized milk, or vice versa, right? I'm thinking like, I'm not the I've been to the doctor. I go to the doctor once every 5 years. Thank God for my class 1 physical.
Yeah.
I'm not a burden on the medical system.
You know who's a burden on the medical system is the people who unwittingly devour processed food 3 meals a day and end up in the hospital with colorectal cancer. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not to shit on anybody, no pun intended there, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That ends up in that situation. It's a very dire situation, but that's the reality. Is if you're going to eat poison, it's going to poison you. So.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of ties into the COVID thing. Everything needs to be ordered in a season in advance. Chickens, twine, fertilizer, etc. Or just in time. Delivery system is failing on all counts.
Yeah, we had that here too for, you know, where are we after COVID? I mean, the whole manufacturing process, back on its heels. Like, you look around and it's just like, well, you said the other day, I don't know if it was on a live or whatever, I mean, There's the cars all over, new cars, no chips.
There's fields, acres and acres of brand new vehicles sitting in the U.S. right now that are waiting for chips, right? The company I work for off farm, we're scheduled to get 30% of our vehicle order for the upcoming year, right? Because they just can't get chips for them. And I was reading in, I forget what the newspaper was the other day. It was the Edmonton Journal or anyways, that it is suspected that the chip shortage is going to last well up into 2024 and possibly 2025. So, and this is kind of circling back to what's happening with Russia and what's happening with China right now. So Russia's economy in late 2021, Russia's economy grew by 7%, in excess of, you know, the pre-pandemic level. So they were better off at the end of December 2021 than they were before the pandemic, right? So they have a lot of things to throw at Eastern Europe and maybe even Central Europe. But the sanctions, is that going to make an impact? Is it not going to make an impact? Well, now they're looking to China to bolster them and to provide support to them. Well, I mean, they have a lot of hands in each other's pockets, you know, in terms of like-mindedness and similar values with, you know, both communist nations. They've done a lot of work together before. China right now, and for a while now, has had a zero COVID policy. So there's an outbreak ongoing right now. I think there's 87 cases in whatever, forget the name of the city in China, and they just instantly locked down, right? What does that do to the Chinese economy? It's pretty bad for the Chinese economy. But I mean, when Canada initiated well, they never called them lockdowns here. Officially, we never called them lockdowns. We called them enhanced restrictions or something like that, right? But they actually, they just no, the sidewalks roll up and you're done. You're closed. Nobody leaves. If you're gonna move around the city, you need to have a hall pass kind of thing, right? They're shut down. So that has an impact on their economy. But China's economy is bolstered by the entire world, right? So when bad things happen in China, they ripple way outwards, right? So if you can't get parts in China, you can't get labor in China, we can't get parts here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So things might be bad there, but they get a lot worse the further out you get from them.
Yeah, the whole ripple effect, right?
Exactly. So if they then turn their favor towards supporting Russia in terms of, you know, whether this is going to be a world war, what that's going to look like, it remains to be seen yet. But there's not too much. I mean, I can't even get the microwave in our kitchen to work without a microchip, right? I can't get any of these devices to work without all the chips that.
No.
You know?
Well, we could still have a cigar and a whiskey.
We could have a cigar and a whiskey, and we could
just can't
solve.
bring anybody around.
We wouldn't not necessarily solve the world's problems, but we could solve, you know, our own personal problems over a cigar and a whiskey.
Yeah, that's.
But that's the concerning thing, right? Is, you know, if this does end up in World War, we're gonna fight and we're already in a pretty cold war in terms of being held hostage by supply and manufacturing streams from other nations, right? North America has outsourced.
I gotta cut you off. You built this, and you explained what it was for, and yet you refused to use it. You have 2 opportunities this evening to use this.
So you're doing it all wrong.
Well, that's because what you said to do.
I think you misunderstood what I meant.
Well, why'd you watch me do it like an idiot?
Because it's interesting to watch. So for the folks at home that wonder what this is, and I asked you initially, how's the draw on your cigar? So when you pull on the cigar, if there's resistance, if you feel that your eyes are getting bloodshot trying to provide vacuum, you can actually, this is a draw tool, you can actually insert it in the cigar like this.
I thought you said when it goes out, you scrape the end off.
And you can then increase the amount of draw like that.
Did you not say?
But you can also use it back. You can also use it to just scrape the tip of the ash off. The reason you want to remove the ash, and I just rolled it off there, but you want to remove the ash from the tip of the cigar before you relight it, because if you're trying to relight already burnt ash, it can lead to an acrid, bitter taste for the remainder of your cigar.
I thought you said to scrape it off.
Well, you are scraping it off. It's just use this or use something else. It's not relevant, but.
Without chips, there would be more community. People would get out and visit more, go to a dance, etc. We talked about that one with the, curling clubs and everything. Everything's dying. Nobody has any interest in getting involved locally.
Yeah.
Volunteering is.
Nobody wants to volunteer for anything. It's just,
No.
that looks like work, right?
The incredible thing though is how much people do want. I mean, every small town wants they want a new fire hall, they want a new arena, they want a new soccer field, they want a new,
Yeah.
they want a new park, they want. I mean, Height even wants a spray park. I mean, can we?
Kevin
can,
Costner don't work here. If you
can
build
we
it, they
really-
will not come.
Can we really afford all of this infrastructure for? I mean, La Glace is a prime example of a total disaster
Yeah.
with their arena.
Oh yeah.
Like that will
absolutely.
never be built. There's millions of dollars sitting there now. Just
Well, look at the old folks home in Hythe.
yeah. Well,
You know,
I
the,
think
fir-
that-
the first one.
Yeah,
The,
oh, yeah.
The one that we're going to build out of sea cans, because that was the greatest
oh
idea
my
ever.
god.
Right?
Yeah,
And
we
they got like 75% done, and then they went bankrupt, and then just
condemned it and ripped it down,
guess we're done, and just tore it all down,
and
and
then built another
Just
one.
brand new windows and doors, and like all the brand new fixtures, fittings, everything, crushed, landfill, done. Right, millions and millions of dollars of equipment that could have been repurposed, sent to Habitat for Humanity or wherever.
Uh-huh.
Right, build low-income housing, do something in the community.
Well, we know for sure that Ron is joining us. He says he's having a whiskey, so cheers to Ron.
Ron, what are you drinking this evening? What?
Just like the carbon tax
interested to know,
garbage.
What's
Hey,
your tipple?
yeah. Well, Stan's done some interesting posts and interesting videos on. The carbon tax is not a helpful tax. Is the bottom
Carbon
line.
tax is not a helpful tax. The carbon tax was actually used to mitigate the effects of greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, you said I could take this off. now, too.
Then perhaps, yeah, you know what? Maybe we're at that point. Let's just see how we fare. We'll take the wrapper off.
Did you?
Take the band off and try not to crack the wrapper on the cigar?
It is warmer though. Maybe from your fingers too. I don't know.
That could be the humidity from your fingers.
I seen somewhere. I
See,
think
look at underneath. Look at underneath. Oh,
it is fancy.
Look at the fancy band because the Canadian tobacco rules. They say
You
you've got
called it.
You can't have nice bands on there.
That's high class.
But underneath there is
So we got to
just a
take that off too.
beautiful,
I wish we
beautiful
would have took
band.
these
So
off
now
at
I
the
have
start.
to show the folks at home what that looks like.
Absolutely,
Just
that is
gorgeous.
top shelf.
That's right uptown. I'm gonna leave that one on because that's Quorum Shade, J.C. Newman Cigar Co., handmade in Nicaragua. And then this piece of garbage toilet paper roll that they
Thank
put
you,
on.
Canada.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Like that was going to stop us from buying these.
Right, like I'm sure there's 15-year-old boys walking into the tobacco store being like, yeah, I want some J.C. Newman, cigars at, I don't know what even these things are, $25 a piece, right? Probably not gonna happen. So
No. I do want to shout out to them again too. For the people that didn't see, and it's Cedar Gems in Grand Prairie. I don't know if you can see this, but I got their card, so this is where Stan and I we're gonna become regulars there. I think.
we're VIPs. Maybe not yet, but we're well
Maybe
on our
not
way.
yet. Well, they know us, like they knew you, because I was like, yeah, no, Stan was here. I want to buy cigars that he. But yeah, check them out. They're on the south side of town. Really top shelf. Like
They are
Like,
the best. They're the best cigar shop in Grand Prairie. I know the competition's not steep there, but it is nice. When you walk in, and I feel bad because I walk in and I just want to, like, it's like a kid in a candy store. You just like, because there's shiny stuff everywhere, and there's the humidor, like a full room walk-in humidor, and it's just like you just want to press your face against the glass and look in, and then all the cigar boxes on the shelving in behind, and it's not just like your typical Grand Prairie. Oh well, it's just I'm just selling vape juice and cigarettes and
No, it's a lot classier, I guess.
or a weed shop, right? There's a lot of that in Grand Prairie where they're serving a different crowd, right? Whereas this is more uptown. It's more in tune with, as you can see, the atmosphere, the ambiance, the decor and the decorum, so to speak, of what we're trying to accomplish here.
The Cedar Gems carry cherry Colts. I drive to Grand Prairie for one of those.
So
I don't think they do.
Here's the thing.
I don't think you can sell them in Canada.
You cannot
Canada.
sell them in Canada. So
You can buy them online though, because when I was looking to, no, you couldn't get them shipped to Canada. That
can't
was
get them
it.
shipped to Canada. So
But they exist.
Here's the workaround. Because you cannot get flavored cigars, but you can get infused cigars. And so you'll remember from a few lives back, we smoked a W&D Honduran sweet cigar, and I think you told me like 5 or 6 hours into the next day how that it was just, it stuck with you, right? So I purchased 12 of the W&D mocha cigars, and we'll have to have those next time, maybe or another day perhaps. But they're almost like a coffee chocolate, very very tasty cigar. So, you know, they're not a Colt by a cherry Colt by any means, but
Ron is
they're a
drinking
treat.
Broken Oak. It's not lasting. It's almost done. And Ty says $100 for 2 stogies.
Broken Oak is they're local too, eh? They're a Grand Prairie distillery,
Are they?
I believe, or Peace Country distillery. But look at that, I was able to just roll
That came off. Man.
roll the band off without thing. So we'll have to
They can't be outlawed
just save
here. They can't be an outlawed here. Have to get them mailed from somewhere in the U.S. is how we got Cherry Skull for a while.
yeah, they're outlawed here because apparently the flavored tobacco is what was causing
Yeah.
the young crowd to get on with, you know, I guess, yeah, with addiction to tobacco, right? But that's the beauty about cigars is you don't actually inhale the smoke. You
enjoy
bring
it.
it in. You might
And it does smell good. Like even up here, like, it smells
What's
like
it called?
a coffee shop in a.
you breathe it in and then or you in through your mouth and out through your nose. Retrohale it, right?
That would be a new one for me.
but I mean that's the most that you do, right? Otherwise it's just in and out, and you get the flavor, but yeah, you don't pull it in your lungs, or we'd be green as your shirt by the first 10 minutes, I'm sure.
And as far as $100 for 2 stogies, I don't know if we had $50 cigars yet. I know these evenings aren't.
We did.
Did
We have 2 left. The Romeo and Juliet's finest Cuban cigars.
Okay.
Yeah, they are there. So we have 2 more of those.
I know the 2 I picked up. I want to say were around $36.
I have a colleague right now who is returning from Mexico,
Oh boy.
who's bought me 5 Cohiba Cuban cigars. So really looking forward to that.
Well, now that you got a place to store them
Now that, yeah, exactly.
properly, you can.
I don't know what they're going to look like when they leave his suitcase. Hopefully, you know, he's.
Be the square boxed ones.
Yeah, they might.
They'll be boxed now.
It might be, yeah.
But yeah, no, these I don't know. Is I guess we do have $50 cigars.
You know,
$8.
But that's the difference
$8
between a-
glasses of.
that's the difference between a $1 cigarette that's gone in 5 minutes,
Or something that
versus
lasts
this,
2
you
hours.
know, a couple hours cigars. I mean, I don't know how long are we at right now? We're
97.
97 minutes, and I mean we're.
Prime times
know,
were great.
I tell my wife that was 6 inches, but I know we only started at 7, so I think we're down to 3.
Yeah, prime times, all those things, they were definitely good. But for someone who really wasn't that big of a smoker, these are, there's something about it, right? There's something about this, like these are called Churchills. That's a pretty, and then
Well, and
the 48.
That's a 48 ring gauge, yeah.
That's an admirable. I don't know if we might have some 50s, maybe even some 52s.
I think the ones you brought today were 50s or 52s.
But like that's
But they're torpedoes too. Like they're a pointed end, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure the purpose of that because you generally clip a portion of that off, but I think it fits the lips better.
That's what I was thinking too. So we got our oil painting, and when I was doing some, because we were both looking for something to hang up there.
Is that a Rembrandt or?
Yeah, that's top shelf. I thought maybe we should get a. Well, you must have seen them online too. They got all the cigars and the ring gauge and everything, and it's hang that on the wall.
I have not seen that.
I was looking at that last night.
Wow.
It's pretty
You'll have
interesting.
to send that to me.
I learned quite a bit about like there's like 60 like big
There's lots.
grunts
Yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
the hell you call those things.
Yeah, I've seen the ones that they look like
They're
as
about
big
this
around as
long,
that
right?
glass. You're like,
Yeah.
I won't do that too often.
Wondering how you're gonna tackle this thing, eh?
Yeah. I mean, that's an investment at that point. You just hope it doesn't taste like a.
50 will get
A
you
garbage
2
bag
butchered
full of
chickens.
leaves.
Well, last year it did. Yeah. It will.
What's the question?
Oh, Ron just said $50 will get you 2 butchered chickens. Well, last year it did.
You'd be shocked at how many people would come to me and say, "I'll give you $10 a bird for a 11-pound farm raised, chicken tractor.
You'd rather feed it to your
grass-fed
dog,
chicken,
eh?
right? And I would rather feed that chicken to my dog than have somebody pay $10. You know, I can't even feed the thing. I can't even raise the thing for $10.
That is one thing.
Right.
Now, we're going to go on a tangent here right now because everyone's going to have a story about this. This has nothing to do with COVID, but a friend of mine was getting married one year. And we had, Corey and I, my wife, we made an agreement. We're like, you know what? We're going to start this canning process. We're not going to touch a jar until we have 300 jars stored.
Yeah.
So then a friend of mine
So you're
comes.
stockpiling
Yeah,
jars.
everything. We canned everything. The only thing we didn't get into was meat, and just because we didn't have the expertise, we didn't know what we were doing. So we had all sorts of potatoes and vegetables and garlic and all this stuff. And he walked in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm getting married. I'm gonna have a Caesar bar. Eh? I could just grab some carrots and stuff." And we just looked at each other and we're like, "This man has no idea
None.
how long it took to
The
make
labor.
a jar of carrots because we
Yeah.
grew them all.
You're out there
Five of
watering them every
grew
day.
'em, and he's gonna just go on in a Caesar bar at a wedding.
Yeah.
You know, like, no, you
Yeah.
can't. You know, you watch
That's
people
one
eat.
thing I will absolutely support. Just go to the grocery store.
Absolutely,
Get
just
some
you
pickled
know,
asparagus or some broad beans or something like that.
we lay out a lot of our
Those
home.
pickled carrots should be like $28 a jar.
They should absolutely. The stuff's hard and people don't realize it, right? You watch people just wolf down a whole pack of jerky and you're like,
I have some.
Are you
somewhere.
serious?
I don't know what I did with them during the renovation. They might have got
Oh, they're over
waylaid. Oh, they're over there. Yeah.
but yeah, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people, and I wish. Well, Stan and I both. We wish we could get some of these people to join into these lives. Are the people? Because we know everybody that's watching is very like-minded. But you know, no, you're doing it.
I'm
To-
doing
to-
it just
To
for you.
find some of these people who have the questions and they to get them in here would be interesting.
Yeah, if you know some folks that are curious about it or maybe on the fence, they're just not sure. Do I want to buy direct from a farmer? Do I not want to buy direct from a farmer? Send them the link. Send them our way. We'll be happy. Well, you know, whether it's during the live stream or it's just sometime, on a Wednesday, whatever. Send them our way. We'd be happy to answer those questions.
And I don't think this is going away anytime soon. As you can see, Stan's renovation
Yeah, I
project.
just put-
There's quite a bit
Let's put
invested.
$17,000 worth of lumber into this project.
We might
Like,
have to insure
shop-
this thing.
The shop floor down here, you can't see it because I mean we're focused in on the classy side of it, but I mean there's so much wood that got cut for this project. Down there in the shop floor, it looks like somebody decimated the rainforest because there's so much mahogany cut down. But
When you start adding up bottles of booze,
once you
and
get in there, I
fine
mean, you're
oil
looking at
paintings.
I mean every bottle of booze is $75 to $100, right? For the Scotch, right? I mean we're not drinking toilet water by any means, right?
those antler sheds alone. So I weighed those $16 a pound, eh? They're just like I don't know, 1.8 pounds a piece.
Yeah.
Those antler sheds alone are $50.
That's
We
right,
might
that's
have to
right.
insure this.
Yeah.
Just this
That-
small space.
That
there.
beer stein, I don't know if anybody can see that beer stein up there.
Yeah,
on
behind
Robin's
my head. Yep, there it is.
That thing's like $300, right? That's like antique German beer stein, right from the old country there. The one up top, which I don't know if you can see that one, the pewter mug. That was my dad's from the 1950s, custom made. I think it was because he finished school or something like that.
Well, for sure. How about this? Because you're gonna have to do a tour of this and throw it up on your channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's this, yeah. It
It's
has
a
to be.
cool space.
It is cool.
Like with the dartboard, I mean, we don't have the official spacing for the dartboard, but
Well, I mean, I think that's
you can
enough
look
for
from that
amateurs.
kind of distance. I mean, I got a pretty decent spread, right? So
But no, it turned out really well. All kind of from nothing, eh? To just full on.
yeah, from just a handrail to keep my kids from falling out to now. And my daughter comes up here and she wants to get ice cream up here now. She kind of thinks it's a cool space, right? So
NFE, you got to do a live at 6 a.m. at Beaver Lodge A&W. That will get you some very different opinions.
Beaver Lodge A&W, that is where the world's problems begin and end. I will tell you that. That's the coffee shop talk. There's a lot of stuff happens there.
Chad thinks we should just advertise this live stream as an NDP event. You'll get your differing opinions then.
Well,
Ty Rock, Jeremy's back too. Hey Jeremy, and Ty Rock says, I know there's the Facebook page. Would you ever consider selling in a farmer's market, or is that waste of time with other jobs on the farm and a word of mouth works better? So I actually had a very interesting conversation with an older lady that picked up feed 2-3 days ago.
Farmers markets have become a train wreck.
They are.
You go to Christmas craft shows, you go to farmers markets, you go to, yet again with legislation and stupid rules, one ingredient needs to be local. You can call that local.
Yeah.
So you can effectively buy a cookie mix and sell an egg with it and call the whole thing local, you know? Like, it's a total disaster.
But
What-
for
what
an
I-
entirely local producer, though, it's going to cost you $50 to get that table.
Yeah.
You sell a lot of eggs to make $50 a profit.
And that's just it. Everyone's going to try to nickel and dime you out of this, anyways. I would think that, I didn't think you would agree. The best thing we can do is to educate the consumer into the ease and the affordability of shopping direct.
We should start a call to action.
Well, I think that's what we're doing.
Well, I mean, we should make it
Like,
official.
how
We
many
should
more
make it
things
official.
can we
We've
do?
got to like start a hashtag.
I'm
or
already tired. My fuse is short. I'm
Yeah.
already exhausted. But yeah, like whatever. I mean, I'm on board,
Hashtag-
and I don't even raise meat. That's the crazy thing.
Hashtag need food, call a farmer.
For sure. I told a guy was picking up molasses today, and I told him, I said, the craziest thing, all the time and effort we set into, you know, doing these live streams, doing our channel, setting up that Peace Country Food Connection, and I don't even sell meat locally. I just sell the feed. But I got a great passion for the fact people put a lot of time and effort into raising these animals. The quality is, it's not relatable. You can't just be like, well, it's so much different. And you'll find more often than not, I did a post about the pork. Even at $4.20 a pound hanging weight was still cheaper than the store.
Yeah.
Now it's not cheaper if you're going to be that guy. Well, I can get it on sale. Of course you can get it on sale. I mean, you know. But if you want to just be that day-to-day consumer who shops 2-3 times a week, they buy a day or two worth of food.
Yeah.
You know, those folks got to do better.
So in terms of the savings that are actually there, right? You talked about this with I don't want to buy a $40 cut of meat, or $40 a pound cut of meat, when I can get the whole animal done for $5.50 or $6 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
So when you actually do the math, and you've done a couple of videos on this, you did one with the steer,
I did, yeah.
and you did one with the pig.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of folks that say, well, you know, how do I store that much meat? Well, you know what, the meat's going to keep for 18 months in the freezer without freezer burning, if it's packaged properly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so figure it out. How much meat do I eat in a day? How much meat do I eat in a year then? Okay, well then that's how much, because most farmers will like, okay, I'll sell you half or a quarter or whatever, because they have enough customer base usually.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, the cost savings I get off of buying that animal in bulk and freezing it as opposed to going to the grocery store and purchasing piecemeal cuts. And we've done videos on this too, where you throw 20% of it in the garbage.
Uh-huh.
The money you save by buying directly from the farmer will pay for the deep freeze
Absolutely.
to store that animal. And it will pay for the power to power that deep freeze for 18 months to keep that meat fresh.
Uh-huh. And that's strictly the financial side. When you get into...
Yeah, that's without the
Factoring
animal
it.
husbandry, the animal, the welfare side, the meat quality, you know. That's just the numbers, right? So.
Chad says you're tired and you haven't even started seeding yet.
Well, I gotta say, unfortunately, I was actually gonna do a video today when I was looking at my tractor. So, the tractor that I drive, we did buy new in 2006. That's my office. I did a video on it last year about like all the gadgets in a day. We went pretty top shelf with the, blocks, motors and stuff.
You
So
got brakes and air conditioning and all kinds of stuff.
seating to me is, that is my favorite time of year. That was gonna be my whole video. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. A lot of farmers like fall, right? Because you don't spend any money in the fall. Seeding, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
However, for me specifically, in the fall, I haul the grain and do all the work because my parents are a little bit older and I don't expect them to be out there. I can't expect my wife to be doing it. She got 2 kids to look after as well. So to me, I can just climb in that tractor, AC, radio. I got all my monitors. I know how to do it. I set it up myself. It's exactly what I wanted. So I look forward to that. That is my break. I mean, I take my shoes off, feet up on the dash. Like, I am that, look like the total jerk-off farmer. Like, look at this idiot. But that's my 2.5 weeks for me.
But what do you, like in the cab of that tractor, you're talking the big blue one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's what, like 80 square feet inside that cab?
Oh, they're big.
It's big.
Oh, yeah, they're big. They're big.
So you got room
amazing.
for a deep freeze in there.
Some of them do have freezers.
You could
now.
probably have a
or
deep freeze on
fridges.
one side and a barbecue on the other.
Oh, for sure,
You'd be
for
cooking,
sure.
cooking
No.
smokies.
And
in
yeah,
there.
I mean, it drives itself, right? So, Ty Rock says, might as well open up a restaurant. He's got the meat, grow some vegetables, and make donuts. There you
Okay,
go.
so
Uh-huh.
I gotta interject in that one. Although that sounds like a great idea, there is no business. There is no business on the planet that has as smaller margins as the restaurant business. That's why they largely have never been able to pay their employees a living wage and have survived entirely off of tips. So, Tambora Station says seating was my favorite part of the season as well. Nothing beats the smell of fresh turned dirt. Yeah, no, there's nothing like the smell of nitrogen and carbon being released back into the atmosphere, even though that's probably not what you actually want to have done. So that's always the trade-off, I suppose, right? With tillage, right? Is what you're releasing back into the atmosphere versus what you're capturing with your crop.
Yeah,
You know, so peas are kind of the magic crop in terms of that, right?
yeah. Well, we do definitely a very different variation of tillage and not. Ron says the consumer comes to you for advice, the consumer comes to you for advice, seeking understanding, and educate yourself on meeting their wants and needs. Maybe all they got is $10. Yeah, you definitely. Well, customer service is its own thing. I like seeding too. I love combining, but I usually don't get to run that as much as I'd like. I'm seeding with an 1155 Massey. I'm the auto steer, same as my old Versatiles. I prefer haying. We let the laying hens pick the small pieces of meat from the bones after we butcher.
I've had people come to the farm and say, I can't buy a whole lamb. Would you sell select cuts? There's a reason I don't do that, right? Because I don't want to be left with pork hocks or lamb shanks, right? You're left with the lower quality cuts that you can't market, right? I would sooner sell you the whole animal for, like you say, $5.50 or $6 a pound. We sell our lamb for $6 a pound, hanging weight. You pay the butcher. However, if you're unsure, well, because lamb is one of those obscure things that hasn't really caught on in the peace country.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unsure, you can come to me and I will sell you a cut of meat. Right, I'll sell you probably the finest cut of meat if that's what you want, and you're gonna pay top dollar for it. Or you can come and just buy some sausage or whatever, and just have a taste, have a sample. Come, we'll have tea, we'll cook some at the farm. You can try it, and if it's for you, it's for you. But I would, for the average farmer to run 6 or 7 freezers, try and keep all their animals, and run a storefront at the farm for select cuts. That's not economical.
Yeah, I've told a lot of people, you know what, dedicate at least 10, 15 minutes of your evening to learning how to cook. Because I seen a young lady, she was doing the out of the freezer selling thing with pork, and it was right away, it was like, we're officially sold out of bacon and sausages. We got lots of, everything else. And I thought, like, that's what's gonna happen. And I laughed at somebody, the joke was like, yeah, I'll get a pig. How do you want it cut up? Oh, just all bacon. Like people don't realize the whole pig is not bacon.
No,
right?
you would get a $3,500.
Turn it all into
pig.
bacon. Well, I mean, what are you gonna, it's just not possible, right? I mean, only a part of the pig is bacon, and then the rest has got to be something.
But else. If you go to Europe and you get bacon, it's not the same.
Well, I believe that.
Like you get streaky bacon here, or what we would call bacon, they would call streaky bacon there, right? It's got the fat strips in it. But if you get actual bacon, it's closer to back bacon. It's more of a lean cut.
Okay.
With a hind or a rind around the outer rim. But it's not what we would get here, where it's 50% fat and 50% meat. That's not the case at all.
These guys on here, they got their own thing going, so I'm gonna stay out of it. We are following it here though. I will say though, Jeremy mentioned getting, I don't know what kind of auto steer you got, but if you have problems, give me a call. I'm an auto steer expert when it comes to Trimbles, because Trimble up in our area has absolutely zero service and zero support. So you are on your own, and after having it, we bought it in 2006. So what? That's 16 years of having it.
After 7 years of owning it, I learned how to use it, and now we've had it for 6 years. So yeah,
So that's, if we wanted to circle back to where we are after the pandemic, this is maybe the really good place to do it. If you phone a parts guy at Deutz or John Deere or wherever, whoever the tractor manufacturer is, and says, I need this part, what do? They make one phone call for that part, and then they say, no, we don't got it.
it is a Trimble, so they'll be calling me.
And then the parts guy says, he looks at you and he says, yeah, we can't get it. They only make one phone call. Post-pandemic, right? When things are hard to find, how hard is it to pick up the phone and make 2 or 3 phone calls,
Mhm.
right? And you're still gonna make a sale. You have to work a little bit harder for that sale. But it seems, yeah, there's just such apathy out there that they just can't get it.
Yeah, it can't be done.
Well,
Can't
okay,
be.
well, I'm not gonna park a $300,000 tractor because you can't get it, right? So
No.
then, well, then what do? Go to the machine shop, I guess, right?
Well, I mean,
You know, I mean, I've done that quite a bit, you know, in my shop local thing. Like, I don't take no for an answer. I mean, I will get it figured out. You know,
Yeah.
with our New Holland mix mill, there was very little of actual help because the machine itself is so old.
Yeah.
And we was like, well, maybe, you know, it could be here in a week or two, and it's $1,200 or whatever. And then I was very fortunate to get hooked up with a local machinist who's very good at that craft. And I mean, he's built me all sorts of stuff. You know, in fact, we
Yeah.
had something break just today on our seed cleaner, and I thought that's a job for him, right? Because that's got to be welded on straight so it can turn, right? So, yeah, it's
Yeah, you can't just take that to the welding shop. You need
no,
to-
no. Well, this guy can't
That's
do it.
gotta
I
be
can't do it.
finessed, yeah. You can't just chicken shit, MIG weld it all together.
But it was good. Well, I did that video where I was taking apart a roll 430 tractor, and Jeremy actually was one that, you know, commented right away because I had a ton of questions on what was inside the distributor. I didn't know. I mean, I'm not a product of points and condensers and all that stuff. I'm a product of check engine lights on, put some tape on it until whatever, right? I mean, I don't know how to fix that stuff. So
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm the same way. Like I've said many times, I can't fix the tractor. I just go wash the tractor, right? Because I can't fix it. I just can give it
you
confidence.
can
Right?
give it confidence.
That's all I can do. So
So no, that was
Yeah.
good.
yeah. You know what? I gotta say, I don't know how many live streams we done now. Is this number 5 or 6?
I think it's good. Well, it could be 6. I was
Maybe it's-
looking back.
maybe
I
it's
was
5.
1 ahead, so maybe it's only 5.
Maybe it's 5, but I gotta say this is probably the best Scotch I've ever drank in my entire life, and that's a stretch because I've had a few.
This is good. And I'm
Like
I'm
if
floored now.
anybody
about the
has
bottle.
987,500 pounds burning a hole in their pocket, I would highly recommend a trip to London to go buy a bottle from Harrods
And then drop it up here.
or $85 at the liquor depot. I don't know.
But I have a feeling that this maybe isn't up to par because I'm noticing here. See, there's a bit of glue, glue or something.
I would keep that on it because maybe that's a unique.
This could have been the one put together by the new kid on Friday night.
Right. I mean that could make it worth more, right? You see the coins that get minted and there's a mistake in it. How they're worth so much more. Maybe we shouldn't have opened this.
No, it was well worth opening.
Oh, it was so good.
Like
Yeah.
it's. No,
Yeah, that looks like silicone.
I-
don't know why.
I'm not going to be that
It's
Bitcoin guy that bought a pizza for like 50 Bitcoin, whatever, when it was worthless.
yeah, just gave away $1 million.
That would have been a tough pill to
So
swallow.
we're into the final third of the cigars now too. What are you feeling there?
At this point, this is where my lips go numb. So I've lost all feeling. And I thought it was the glue, but maybe it was just too much cigar. And then I don't know. I asked the lady at Cedar Gems too, and I think she was actually going to do that for us. Try to pair some cigars with a drink.
With Scotch?
Because I don't know if we're supposed to be. I mean, well, it's not just the Scotch
Oh,
one, but there's
cigars
certain.
there's some cigars that don't pair well with Scotch.
So
They're
you-
better with tequila or better with vodka.
Because I asked her to put like a flight pack together for us too, or whatever. I was like, get us.
A flight pack.
Yeah, like
That's a
what-
term I haven't heard before.
I don't know why they call it that. Like you get a flight of beers and it's like 6 different beers or whatever.
Oh,
if you go to a
okay, yeah,
brewery,
yeah,
I'll have to Google now the significance of why it's called a flight. But so yeah, she was gonna look into do that too. See if she could because that's the other thing too. I mean, local business have been just totally ravaged for the last 2 years. You know, it's like she said. I mean, foot traffic into the cigar shop during COVID was basically zero. If they were even
yeah.
open.
Yeah.
So, I guess not to say you got to get out and smoke
I see-
cigars, but I mean, let's get out and get back into these you know, supporting these businesses.
I see mid 2020 there was people on Facebook, and even today, there's still people selling their work boots on Facebook, on the marketplace, right? Because people are hard up,
Oh yeah,
right? So I could see why whether it's the restaurant business or the cigar business, why anybody that's, you know, reaching for a little bit of luxury or trying to or sell, you know, something a little bit higher class is having some difficulty, right?
these guys are still chatting amongst themselves, like driving.
See, you started a thing there. That's good.
Oh yeah, it is good. Ron's going for more whiskey. Well, don't go on our account, Ron, because we're just gonna be crossing over that 2 hour threshold.
We're about 2 hours there now. Yeah.
We generally cap it off at that. Although it's funny because we get a tremendous amount of traffic in like the
right
last
at the end, yeah.
20
yeah.
minutes. Maybe
yeah.
we should. We might have to start these an hour later. I can only imagine. What did you say about the wall? I like to put an odd wobble in my rose to give the neighbors something to talk about. Ty Rock says, "Ha, Chad, yeah, that does happen." You around here, it was funny in 2006, 2007. Like my dad was wondering too, like even why we ended up with so many GPS systems. Like he said, it must have been good. He was trying to think back because they're expensive systems, 15
Yeah.
grand basically minimum. And I think we got 1, 2, maybe 4. We got 5 of them now.
Yeah.
You know, and you can really tell though who doesn't have one. You know, like there's 1 or 2
Yeah.
farmers around here that weren't gonna concede to do this.
No,
eh?
that's right. Yeah.
But I can say, I mean, this is off COVID topic too. I mean, fatigue and operator error, just it's eliminated with GPS. It's actually a must. I actually did a video on it, and it was is it a luxury or is it a necessity? And I truly believe. Well, and farms are getting bigger, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, in terms of efficiency, you get how many quarters you farm. I mean, by the time if you've doubled up on land or missed a spot.
I did the math on it, right? I mean, if you start to think you're gonna spend, I don't know, $300-400 an acre, and you're gonna overlap, you know, say conservatively 3 or 4 acres every field.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not like you're getting extra yield from overlap.
Well, you'll sometimes get it from the fertilizer if you're not already doing to the max, anyways. But you know, the seed, the chemical, extra passes and stuff, that's not helping you. So I mean, you could realistically say $2,400 a quarter times 10, 24,000, 12,000. It pays for a GPS every year.
Sure it does.
And they are quite amazing. So
Yeah.
but we hit every bullet point in this as we went on. The only there was some that were more controversial, and I don't think they were worth.
What did
getting
you get
into.
in there? Civil unrest, friends and families divided.
Bring the paper over here as well, so they're over there now. Some of them were a little more.
Inflation at 30-year highs, supply chain, manufacturing, social programs exploding, war in Europe, prairies experience the worst drought in 100 years. 2 years.
Your internet provider realizes that 2 hours is enough.
Yeah, I think we just got TELUS, or not even TELUS. Who are we with? We're at Nexcom.
Nexcom?
I think that's who we use. We were TELUS in town, but they're saying 2 hours. 2 hours. The minute we mentioned the politicians, they're just like,
Right, instantly censored.
Yeah.
Probably bank accounts frozen.
yeah, Bill, was that still C69 or just like, no. So, yeah, we touched on all our points. You know, at this point, in summary, I don't know what more we could do without beating the hell out of this horse, but I would really be interested, as we mentioned before, we obviously significant investment in this space. This is not the first nor the last time we're going to sit down and have a whiskey and a cigar.
Oh, absolutely not
And,
now.
you
I might
know,
just move
we
here.
have a dozen or more regulars that tune in, that provide input into the show, and we'd really be interested, I think, to hear from you folks what it is that you are interested in, what you would like us to tackle in one of our upcoming lives. I think we've got some stuff on buying direct.
Yeah.
That's one we need to tackle.
Oh yeah, we got some stuff simmering on the stove here that we're gonna be tackling.
I do have one in the hopper, so to speak, on gentlemanly endeavors. And this is just kind of the catalyst for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's hear from you guys. Leave us, whether it's in the comments of this or once they get uploaded and they're fully viewable. If you want to leave a comment there, or if you want to just shoot us a message through one of our Facebook pages. You're still Bloom Enterprises
I
is
am,
still your
yeah.
Facebook
Yeah.
page, although you recently changed
I
the
did.
name of your YouTube channel to Millionaire Farmer.
I did.
I keep getting it wrong because every time I plug it, I call it The Millionaire Farmer.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's Millionaire
It's
Farmer.
just millionaire, like the Facebook, right? It kept
It's
it clean.
the
Cleaned it
TikTok.
up. I just the millionaire farmer. And yeah, I had a guy ask me that on Facebook. He said, "Why'd you change your name?" And well, Stan already knows the story, but I did a video on. It was called The Millionaire Farmer, and it was actually the first year where a farm our size could generate $1 million gross revenue, basically no matter how you marketed your grain. And I hadn't seen that before. So, and like, I mean, the name wasn't a flex, but it was kind of just like everything in my life is Bloom Enterprise. Everything. Like, I've worked really hard the last 7 years to try to brand that,
To build
try
your
to
brand,
try
yeah.
to get it out there. And it just, I admittedly, after I got that, I got an interesting email. I showed it to Stan. I'm not getting into it. It was kind of an interesting email, and I was like, you know what, this is a lot more catchy than Bloom Family Farm. You know, just, you know, I mean, there's a ginormous guy in the States, the millennial farmer. I mean, it's just clicky, right? And I thought, well, maybe if it's a more catchier name, I mean, it might gain some more traction that way.
So what do you think? Would you recommend? Like, has it done things for your channel? Because you're now what, 777?
Yeah, I peaked at 780 and then dropped off again.
Because there's probably a couple robots in there, spammers or whatever.
I don't know how that all works. I don't know. I don't know how many videos I've put out since I changed the name. I haven't done a whole bunch with it, but
This would maybe be the opportunity though for the folks that are watching that maybe aren't yet subscribed. This is a good, subscribe to the Millionaire, or not the Millionaire Farmer. Subscribe to Millionaire Farmer. There's a ton of stuff there that you put out about, feed production and large scale grain farming. That people always wonder, where does food come from?
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna see it, right?
Oh,
Very,
yeah.
very intimate view into how you produce the grain. And how you market the grain and what the cost comes out at the end of it, right? You show the math for the people, right? So I mean that's value you're never gonna get just by going to Google, right?
No. So we got the last few here before we wrap up. Ron, there's more margin in goats and lambs because they don't need. That is absolutely true. Smaller animals, and I think you were gonna do one, weren't you? On like
lamb.
basic cost per acre or whatever.
Yeah.
Very much
Yeah.
so. James Hoffer says never good to run out of whiskey mid-show. Well, that won't be happening in this establishment. We are well covered. We could survive for a while in here.
The bulk tanks are full for a while, so yeah.
Chad
We got
says
probably what do we got? Probably close to $2,000 worth of liquor behind us. So
and then and then you get into cigars and humidors, and she's another.
Yeah. So,
Chad says, quite frankly, I like these sessions pretty good. Nice to chat with you guys. We've definitely appreciated. That's why we started. It is nice to get out there to just chat to some people, chat to some folks.
Yeah.
Jeremy agrees, and Ron finishes off with, "I like it too. Should talk more about politics. I just love bashing Jason Kenney or his supporters." Yeah, well, we. It's funny, like even on our channels, we don't really get into too much of that all the time. You did a little bit on the but even COVID itself, like I mean we didn't really do much on our independent channels.
I had a little bit of stuff when things went sideways in Ottawa there, and I kind of voiced my opinion on some things, and I got a lot of backlash from some folks in Eastern Canada, and the thing is I mean, we're trying to communicate to everybody. It's our personal channels are usually fairly family friendly, and somewhat neutral.
Absolutely.
The information is there based on farming, and we try to stay apolitical in terms
Yeah, absolutely.
don't really touch on religion and politics or any kind of divisive subjects.
But that's what this is for. So if you guys are definitely interested in that,
the lives are for more mature viewers, I should say, right? I mean, it's definitely not for everybody, but we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna go to the extreme left or right necessarily.
No.
But it is an opportunity definitely to have a more in-depth conversation about whether you call it a divisive subject or what hot topic, so to speak, right? So this is the platform to do that. Kristen Blaschek just said, I would love to hear more about how the cattle auctions work and your opinion on buying from there. So that we could definitely do a live stream on that one. And Alberta Boy 74 said, I really enjoy these live streams. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, thank you all, obviously, for tuning in. And I mean, it's no small commitment to set aside your entire Friday evening to sit down with us and have this discussion. So we really appreciate the folks that tune in. And for the folks that were curious about where this gentleman's from, because he's a mobile butcher, he's from the Ponoka area. So if you're tuning in from that area, that's maybe an opportunity for you. Tamboror Station said, great topics tonight. have a good evening. Well, you have a good evening as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, I think with that,
We're
that's
into we're into the heel.
we are. These do last. They make the whole thing, right? That
Yeah.
my thing fell off though, right?
Oh, you did.
I
Your
did.
wrapper
I
come
lost
apart,
it.
hey? So, I'm sorry to hear that. It's not like I told you so or anything.
Squeezed it. Well, you're. I guess I squeezed it too hard.
Oh, there you go.
So-
Yeah. So if you're looking for a fine Scotch, highly recommend the Dalmore. This is actually the Dalmore. It's not called Dalmore. The
Well,
Dalmore.
they didn't clean it up like I did. They
And,
didn't ask for my
A
marketing.
lot of really
Yeah.
interesting history in this Scotch, and probably, like I said, and not trying to float anybody's boat or anything, but probably the best Scotch that
That
I have
was
ever
damn
drank
good.
in 40 years. So, thank you for purchasing that. That was really good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining, and we will see you guys all on the next one.
Have a good night, folks.